Okay, with that, we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you for everyone's patience. Sorry for the delay, and thank you for city staff for troubleshooting that issue. Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025 meeting of the City of Worcester Planning Board. My name is Connor McCormick and I will chair tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I have a few brief announcements concerning how our meeting will proceed tonight. Tonight's meeting is a hybrid format, which means you can participate in person here at City Hall or remotely. You may log in via computer by going to worcesterma.zoomgov.com/J/161-731-4979 or by calling in at 1-669-254-5252 and entering access code 161-731-4979 #. To manage remote participation during our hybrid meetings and to prevent disruptions, all participants are automatically blocked from unmuting themselves, turning on their video, or sending chat messages. For remote participants who would like to comment on an item on our agenda, we ask that you use the raise hand feature in Zoom during the discussion on that item. If you are joined by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Staff will then call on members of the public one at a time and give them permission to unmute themselves. If you are joined by phone, you will then be able to unmute yourself by pressing *6. This is a public meeting, which means both it is being recorded and that minutes will be taken and published at a later date. To help with this process, we ask all speakers participating in person to use a microphone to please clearly identify yourselves each time you speak. And the first time you speak, please state your city or town of residence for the record. To help maintain an orderly meeting, please address all comments and questions through the chair rather than directly to any of the other speakers or applicants. There are a number of items on our agenda being continued or postponed tonight, which I'll read through shortly. If you are here on one of those items, please note that no additional notice will be sent to you before the next meeting. The best thing to do is to call the Planning Division the day prior to our next meeting to confirm if the item will be heard or postponed that night, as it is not uncommon for items to be postponed multiple times before they are heard by this board. Once an item is called, there will be a brief presentation of the item followed by any additional comments or clarification from members of the city staff, and then an opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on that item before we proceed to board discussion and action. All applicants should be aware that approvals are generally conditional, decisions are generally signed by the board at the next meeting, and where appropriate, filed with the city clerk the following day, which begins any appeals period. Decisions are typically not released to the applicant until the conditions of approval have been satisfactorily addressed, and it is the applicant's responsibility to address conditions of approval, and a lack of doing so may result in delays or enforcement. Applicants are asked to please call the Planning Division if they have any questions. Please also note that all approval votes will be by roll call vote tonight, which I'm going to administer when the time comes. And with that, we will move to continuance, postponements, and withdrawals. We have item 1, 0 Farrington Street, a definitive site plan, and 81G, GRO Chapter 12, private street improvement. Request to postpone the public meeting to October 1st, 2025, and extend the constructive grant deadline to October 23rd, 2025. Item 3, 0 Chester Street, a definitive site plan. Request to postpone the public meeting to October 1, 2025, and extend the constructive grant deadline to October 23, 2025. And item 6, 284 Grove Street, a definitive site plan. Request to postpone the public meeting to October 1st, 2025, and extend the constructive grant deadline to October 23rd, 2025. And withdrawal, item 10, 361 Belmont Street, 365, 367, 373, 377, 381, 385, 395 Plantation Street, 0 Plantation Parkway, and a portion of 1 Innovation Drive, 100 Research Drive, 1 Skyline Drive, 305 Belmont Street, and 301 Green Hill Parkway. Request to withdraw without prejudice. With that, do I have a motion for the continuances and withdrawals? Do I have a motion from Either Mr. King or Mr. Delara?
Apologies. Yep.
I think I heard a motion and a second. On the motion, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Delara,
Yes.
and myself, a yes. And with that, we will move on to item number 2, 270 Webster Street and 21 through 25 Clover Street, a public hearing for a definitive subdivision plan. Do we have anyone from item number 2, 270 Webster Street, 21 to 25 Clover Street?
Yes, I'm Norman Hill, I'm here.
All right, come on up. We'll have the applicant speak first, and I think I hear them online.
Yes, I'm trying to talk. My name's Norman Hill, I'm president of Land Planning. Can you all hear me okay?
You're a little quiet. If we can get cable services to maybe boost
So
up.
the plan you're looking at there shows the locus of the property, which is a little under 5 acres of land. And it fronts on Webster Street and goes all the way back to Clover Street. The plan you're looking at now is what it exists now. There are 3 lots on Clover Street, 3 frontage lots, and then the remaining land is all fronting on Webster Street. If we could go to sheet number 2 now, that's sheet number 1. We can go to sheet number 2. Okay, so this is what's proposed. So the road is just over 300 feet. The slope of the road never exceeds 2%. So the land coming off of Webster Street is very flat, but there is a steep section of the lot abutting Clover Street. So the last 30 or so feet that abut Clover Street is quite steep, but everything else is pretty flat. So we've designed a road to meet all of your regulations.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, can you hear me?
I'm not sure I understand.
Uh-oh. That's not me. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear. I think that's maybe an automated note taker or something.
Okay, okay. So, as you can see from this plan, we're going to end up with 5 lots. 4 would be served from this little cul-de-sac. The 5th lot would front on Clover Street, and its driveway would come off of Clover Street. The shape of that lot number 3 has changed slightly. It's got a little bigger. Now, each of these lots, this is zone RL7, they each have more than 7,000 square feet. They each have more than 65 feet of frontage. As I mentioned, we designed this to try to meet all of your regulations, but there are 2 regulations we cannot meet. Well, we could, but we're going to ask for waivers. So one has to do with sidewalks. We're proposing a sidewalk on just the right-hand side of the proposed road. And the other has to do with the entrance. We've asked for a waiver on the required roundings at the entrance. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to planning staff for any comments.
Through the chair, my name is Victor Panak. I'm a planner with the Planning and Regulatory Services Division of the city. So this is an application for definitive subdivision approval. The applicant is proposing a new cul-de-sac road off of Webster Street that would serve 4 lots. The applicant is proposing to comply with all subdivision regulations with the exception of 2 waivers that they are requesting from the board. The first waiver is from the sidewalk requirements of section XF1 from the subdivision regulations, which requires that sidewalks be provided on both sides of the street. The applicant is proposing a sidewalk on only one side of the street, given the few number of lots served by the cul-de-sac, and city staff do not have any objections to this requested waiver. The second waiver is from the radius of street lines at intersections under section 9C6. The applicant is proposing a radius of 10 feet where the regulations require 30 feet, and city staff, again, do not have any objections to this requested waiver. Staff recommends conditions of approval that will require the applicant submit revised plans complying with all subdivision regulations, except those waived by the board as requested by the applicant, and complying with city standard street specifications and other design requests from city staff. This is in addition to the board's standard conditions related to subdivisions requiring security and other things like that. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from DPW staff on the call?
Yes, we don't have any comment for this one.
Okay, thank you. I think with that, we can turn to public comments. Is there anyone in the room looking to speak on this item? Sir, come on up. Yep, come up to the microphone. Just make sure the green light is on and give us your name and city or town of residence.
Okay. So, my name's Alfred Shappett. I've been a long-term resident of Clover Street, and we've been dealing with Mr. Nietzsche for some time now, and the neighborhood is not very happy with this man. I'm looking at what he's trying to prove here. They say this, I don't know all the technical stuff, but I know that what I've read ongoing, the street he wants to put in is nothing more really than a driveway. It's narrower than it's allowed. He wants to put berms instead of granite curbs in there, something that the city, he intends on handing this over to the city. It's going to be a maintenance problem for the city. Those berms do not hold up over time. That's why they're made out of granite on public streets. Also, fire apparatus to get in here. I can't see how they have an appropriate, they got 5 houses in there. They plan on putting 4 bedrooms in each home on a slab in a flat lot, you know, in a nice, quiet residential neighborhood. He started out with wanting to put an apartment complex in here, and he eventually withdrew that proposal because the board members on the Zoning Board of Appeals weren't going to vote it in. They said no. So here we go. Now here he comes again after a couple of years. He dug the hill up. He destabilized the hill. He created a problem on the sidewalk which was collapsing. He knocked out the cement fences that they put up with the cables. He knocked those out. It didn't matter to him that he did that, but he did that. He was told to stop. At a certain point, he was told to stop. He didn't stop. He continued to excavate there. He continues to do all kinds of stuff there that I wouldn't want to see anywhere in the city. As far as him complying with anything, you can forget it, because hold on a minute. Mark Argello, I've been in contact with Mark Argello. Mark Argello had told him numerous times, stop. He wouldn't stop. Finally, it got to a point over months and months of him sneaking in there, excavating, not complying with Mark Argello, and finally they had to bring it up. This is according to Mark Argello. I got text references. I don't have them with me, but I do have text conversation with Mark Argello. He told him to stop. After he told him to stop, he did not stop. He continued forward. Then the next thing I know, it stopped, but he would come in a half hour here, an hour there, running his equipment, you know, and literally just tearing the place apart. What he's done there is a travesty. I mean, this is a nice neighborhood. Now, he couldn't get his apartments in there. Oh, by the way, I guess there was a cease and desist order on him to stop. And the last I knew, this was still pending in the courts. Am I sure if that's still pending? No, but if it's not, it's recent that it's been resolved. Now, he's coming before the board, the planning board, with a proposal before he even is compliant at all. This means 5 houses, 4 bedrooms each, on slabs, in this small area that could only accommodate probably 2 houses rightfully. I mean, that makes sense. Maybe a duplex, that makes sense. But 4-bedroom houses, now I sit here and I say, why would he want to do that? Well, my opinion is, he wants to do that to get the 4-bedroom house. Kids can't go out and play in those yards, there's no yard. They'll be playing in the streets. So if that's true, then they'll be no. I believe that he plans on dividing them after he gets this, he goes in steps. After he gets this approved, he probably, my guess is, he plans on dividing them, getting his apartment complex in there, whether we like it or not. It's not an appropriate area for an aggressive person like this to put in this type of housing. Never mind what it's going to cost the city. He's putting in some drainage stuff that after every rainstorm, they have to be cleaned out. I mean, this is city costs. This is, to me, looking at it, this is nothing more than an apartment complex broken up, a circle calling it Thomas Circle, a parking lot, and a driveway that he calls a city street. And the city is going to maintain the driveway, the streets. There's going to be no place for the children to be, so they're going to be on the streets. I mean, this is just ludicrous. And, you know, I look at it, I'm just a dummy. But I look at this stuff, and just looking at it in review, I haven't even gotten into a real debt yet because I've been out of town. But this should not be allowed. I mean, if he wanted to put in a couple of houses, that's fine. But to try to come in with a wolf in sheep's clothing, come in and try to put his apartment complex in a different way, just box it out. That's what it is. And the city is going to pay the price for this, and so aren't the residents in the area.
Okay. Yes, thank you for your comments. I guess a couple quick reactions to that. One, I just wanted to know, I appreciate you might have had some issues with the work that's previously been done at the site, but we're really just looking at the plan that's in front of us tonight. So I know that, you know, obviously you could follow up with inspectional services on anything that had happened on the site previously or currently, but tonight, our meeting tonight with the planning board is just looking at the definitive subdivision plan in front of us. And unless
So
staff
is this
corrects me.
going before the city plans examiner?
I'm not sure about who that would be, but this is the planning board public hearing for the definitive subdivision plan, which is what we're looking at here. And unless staff corrects me, this plan largely conforms to the city subdivision regulations, except for a couple waivers that they're requesting related to sidewalks and
Setbacks?
the radius of a bend in the road. So,
Well, I think before the taxpayers end up stuck with a problem, excuse me, with a problem that I can see coming, you know, we're going to pay for this. It's not going to work.
Okay.
And a parking lot, that's what it is. That's not a road or a rotary. That's a driveway. It's narrower. Sidewalks on one side, and then the houses on top of each other. It makes no sense at all. So I would hope that the board would consider that this is inappropriate, you know, an inappropriate plan by any means. I can't see how that can, when I look at all the different things that he's requested to waiver or get a variance on, I can't see it even going forward anymore. Anyway, that's what I got to say.
okay.
I appreciate the board for their time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Through the chair, if I can just add a few clarifications in response to that comment from the abutter. There are several enforcement orders related to the clearing of the site and the slope treatment along Clover Street. Those have not been resolved yet. I think DPW, the Conservation Commission, and ISD all have some manner of enforcement action going on here. And then This subdivision application and the subsequent site plan review applications for the developments of these lots are all steps that the applicant has to take towards resolving some of the site treatment issues that have already occurred here. So that's why they've submitted this subdivision application. But as the chair said, the assessment of whether this subdivision is appropriate and whether the waivers that the applicant's requesting are appropriate should be treated slightly separately from the enforcement actions, which again are definitely still ongoing. And then the last thing I did want to clarify is that the applicant is not at this point seeking waivers from the granite curbing and the other item that the abutter mentioned that I can't recall at this point. But again, the only waivers from the subdivision regulations that are being asked for now are for the sidewalk to be only on one side of the road and for the curb radius at the intersection.
And through the chair to clarify as well, the board's really only considering the layout and design of the road and the layout of the lots to make sure they meet the zoning requirements. Any of the development that occurs on the lots, with the exception of stormwater management associated with the road, will be subject to site plan review at a later date. So the board's not considering what's going on the lots with the exception of the stormwater features, which would manage the road runoff in this instance. So that is subject to future approval, and all of those lots would have to comply with zoning requirements. There's no variance request that is pending at this point in time.
And, sorry, I just remembered, the abutter did mention the road being less wide than required. That was in a previous iteration of the plan. It has been updated. It is now meeting the subdivision regulations for the road width. The applicant does have their hand raised. I think they may want to add something as well.
Sure.
Yes, hi, this is Norman Hill. Just one thing I wanted to clarify is that each house will have a full basement. If you look at this plan, you can see the proposed elevation for each cellar floor. We label it as slab. That's the cellar floor. Then the top of concrete, that would be the top of the foundation. Each of those have a difference of 7.5 feet. So each house is proposed with a full basement. That's the only thing I want to clarify.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment on this? Sir, come on up.
Mark Benson, Director Butter. One comment I had, well, it's more of an opinion, just so you can hear. The lot off of Clover Street, if anybody knows that street in the wintertime, I can't imagine anybody trying to back out of a driveway onto Clover Street, especially if someone's coming down that hill. So just in my opinion, that one lot off of, with access off of Clover is not a good idea. One other question I had was the parcel B chunk of land along the road. What was the purpose of that parcel B? I don't know why it wouldn't be part of the lot in the back there.
Would staff be able to help answer that one, or if the applicant wants to?
Sure, through the chair. Parcel B is a reserve strip, which is kind of an extra piece of land that doesn't really serve any purpose. It's not allowed under the subdivision regulations, so we do have a condition, recommended condition of approval that requires that the applicant resolve that reserve strip either by conveying it to the neighbor, if the neighbor is amenable to absorbing that piece of land into their own property, or by absorbing that strip of land as part of an adjacent lot that is within the subdivision. And that would pose its own complications, but there are various ways that they could resolve that reserve strip issue, and it has been identified by staff.
And to be clear, that would be required before they could kind of move on to the next steps of construction.
Yes, this would be a condition of approval that we'd require prior to the board's endorsement of the subdivision plan, which would be required for any construction of the road or any further action on the project.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, the board could ask the applicant's representative how they plan to address that, just for the benefit of the board, if you'd like.
Mr. Hill, do you have a comment on that?
Yes, I'm going to ask my client to deed it to the abutter.
Okay, so it sounds like the applicant has a couple options on how to deal with that, but it will have to be dealt with before this plan is endorsed by the board.
All right. And I did have one more comment. So on the infiltration system on Lot 2, that happens to be right adjacent to the tree from my yard, which is a big 30-plus inch maple. I'm not an arborist, but I don't know how an excavation right there is going to affect the root system or the health of the tree. So I just wanted to call that out just to make sure that there won't be any problems with the, with the health of that tree.
I think I can answer this one a little bit. I appreciate you raising that, and I hope the applicant does hear that, but tonight we are just looking at the division of the land, so we're not really looking at the location of future, of the build-out of these lots. So we're just looking at how the larger lot is being split up into 5 smaller lots plus this new roadway, so that's not necessarily under our purview tonight, but I do hope the applicant does hear your concern about the tree, and certainly I think the board would like to see a significant tree like that preserved, so.
And if I may add, the location of the building footprints and those infiltration units would be subject to further planning board review under site plan review when they come in for the development of the lots. As the chair said, we're focusing on the road itself right now.
So they will have to come back
Yep.
to the board
Okay.
for the build of that lot.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room looking to comment tonight on this item? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone online? Not seeing anyone there either. So we'll move on to board discussion. Mr. King, any comments from yourself?
No comments, thank you.
Mr. Delara?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a request from staff to sort of give me a quick summary regarding the stormwater management and the drainage report, because I've been processing it, but I would appreciate a more technical, informed summary for my benefit.
Through the chair, we'll just ask the applicant's representative to review that for the board, and then we're happy to summarize too, if that would be useful. But
Yes,
otherwise,
thank you.
Norm, if you want to go ahead and.
Sure. So a picture a day when it's raining very hard. So the road is designed so that there's a low point near the middle of the road. And so all the water finds the catch basins near the middle of the road. And those catch basins feed into an underground leaching system that's on an easement on Lot 1. So all the water would run into that underground easement, and it's been sized accordingly. We've done soil testing here, dug holes over 14 feet deep, no groundwater, pure sand. I don't see anything like it in my 41 years of doing this. It's just all sand. So not worried about that. And then the houses lead into those infiltration systems on lots 2 and 1 on the back. You see there's an easement back there with some infiltration systems. So when it rains hard, all the water from the houses goes underground, gets leached into the ground. All the water from the road goes underground, gets leached into the ground on site. So I don't see any water leaving this site, even in a downpour.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Anything else staff wants to follow up with, or Mr. Delara, does that answer your question?
I guess it begins to, I'm just not knowledgeable about the physics and the science of what is being described as a mitigation solution.
Through the chair, I can do my best to give
Okay.
a description. So basically, the water will shed into catch basins, the storm drain inlets or grates, the metal grates that folks see in the road. And if you imagine, it kind of goes through the catch basin into the city's drainage system, which is the underground piping. That piping will go to sort of an underground tank, for lack of a better way to describe it. That tank has like a porous bottom and allows water to exchange and kind of drip out to sort of function as a natural system would, just like absorbing into the ground would happen if it rained on grass, it would absorb. In this case, we're mimicking that natural process below ground in the area that you see over here on the kind of right side of the cul-de-sac. So those are chambers, which are kind of like a corrugated pipe that are kind of a half moon shape that allows for storage of the water below, and that helps both attenuate the velocity, so slow the water down, as well as clean the water and then infiltrate it to recharge the water into the ground. And then the catch basins that it first enters in the road, those metal grates have treatment, basically helps pull the sediment out of the water so that the water that's going into that system is clean and doesn't clog up the pores that allow it to continue to percolate down through the ground. Does that help at all?
It does. Thank you for that. It's a very helpful description. And so, through the chair, if I may follow up on that. I understand that this is designed to handle the volume that it may encounter, but what happens if the volume overwhelms the system? What then?
Well, based on the soil testing we did, it would never, we designed this for a 100-year storm, the worst storm in 100 years. But if it did, theoretically, then it would back up into the catch basins and then puddle up into the street.
Okay. Because of course, as I'm sure you know, designs that take into account 100-year storms, in recent years we've seen these systems stressed even though they're supposed to be able to accommodate that. And so I'm just curious about what would happen in that event. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, and one other thing, in recent years they have changed the design formulas and the amount of rainfall. It used to be like 6.5 inches. Now it's much higher than that we have to design for. So they have been increasing the numbers because of the weather history that you speak of.
All right, thank you. And so I'm sorry to keep asking questions. Again, through the chair, I'd like to ask staff if they're satisfied that this will protect the abutters.
Through the chair, yes, according to the applicant's stormwater report and according to the DPW's review of the proposed stormwater management systems, we are satisfied.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Delera. Mr. Toomey, any comments?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. For myself, this is a subdivision, so again, I know there were some comments on the existing conditions on the site and some of the potential issues when the individual lots are built out. It does look like we'll probably see this project come back to us for a definitive site plan to address some of those slopes for the individual lots, but right now we're just looking at the layout of this new proposed road and the lots. And for myself, I don't see an issue with it. They're generally in conformance with the subdivision rules and regulations. They're just asking for a couple waivers, which I find reasonable. So I would be willing to support this application. I hope this is kind of the first step in helping get this site back on track. So unless there are any other comments from the board, I would be open to taking a motion.
I move to approve 270 Webster Street and 21 to 25 Clover Street as presented.
Second.
Actually, can we close the public hearing first?
Yeah, and through the chair, I just want to make sure that we include the conditions of approval in the motion, but yes, thank you.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
On that, and Mr. Toomey does not vote on this because it's not a special permit. So on the motion, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Delera,
Yes.
myself, yes. And we have a motion for the subdivision.
I move to approve the subdivision with the inclusions as mentioned by Michelle Smith.
Second.
Okay, on the motion, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Delera,
Yes.
and myself is yes. That is approved. Thank you and good luck to the applicant.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone stay well. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to item number 4, 10 Diamond Street. This is a public hearing for a special permit for relief from minimum off-street parking and/or loading requirements, parking dimensional requirements, and landscaping requirements, and a public meeting for a definitive site plan.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Mark Bornstein, I'm an attorney at law firm of Prince LaBelle here in Worcester, representing the applicant. This evening, I'm joined in person and remotely by other members of the team. Remotely, we've got Josh Gavel, who is a representative of Kensington Management. In person, I have behind me here Ron Mendez from Graves Engineering, the civil engineer for the project. We have Victoria Epstein, who is remote, from Stonefield Engineering, who is the traffic engineer for this project. And we also have Mark Yanowitz from LYF Architects, the architect for the project. So we have a short video presentation for you, and then we'll briefly summarize the relief that we were seeking and the related approvals, and then happy to answer any questions. So we'll... Kensington Management LLC is proposing a new multifamily development at 10 Diamond Street. The existing site is about 15,000 square feet and currently contains a 3-story, 3-family building along with a driveway and retaining walls. The property is located in the RG5 zoning district and the Blackstone River Parkway sign overlay district, surrounded by a mix of 2-family, 3-family, and multifamily buildings within the lower portion of Vernon Hill. The property is located close to Route 290 and a WRTA bus stop at the corner of Millbury Street and Diamond Street. Given the proximity to public transit, the property is within a managed growth area, which means the Worcester Now Next plan has identified the area as being suitable for moderate increases in housing density. The applicant is proposing to replace the existing building with a new 4-story building containing 18 residential units with a mix of 6 2-bedroom units and 12 3-bedroom units, along with 16 off-street parking spaces, 4 of which will be EV ready, including 1 accessible space. Of the proposed units, 3 will be affordable, with 1 restricted to households earning no more than 60% of the area median income, and 2 at 80% of the area median income, which means this project will be considered an eligible development, and therefore entitled to certain density bonuses. The project also includes significant site improvements, including reconstructing the sidewalk and curb cut along Diamond Street, a new driveway, a new subsurface stormwater infiltration system, a new dedicated screened area for trash and recycling, a new outdoor bicycle storage area, new utility connections, new stairs and walkways, and new landscaping throughout the site with planting of new trees, shrubs to improve the natural condition of the property. Overall, this development will dramatically improve the property and help address Worcester's growing need for housing, especially family-sized and affordable units. So, if I may, Mr. Chair, as you briefly read into the record, we are before you this evening seeking definitive site plan approval and also a special permit for IZ incentives. The relief under the IZ special permit is summarized in the staff memo, but just to highlight for the board, we are seeking a further reduction in the off-street parking requirements, 50%. We are seeking relief with respect to the drive aisle width, parking space dimensions, landscape buffers, parking in the front yard, maximum impervious surface in the front yard, and relief for the loading space. I would note for the board that we previously received a variance in the amount of 2 parking spaces from the Zoning Board of Appeals. They were enthusiastic about the project. It's currently an underutilized site, and it's pretty exciting to bring this level of density close to WRTA bus stop right on Millbury Street. We do have some comments that we've, with respect to the conditions of approval, we've conferred with staff. Happy to go through those with the board now or address those later.
Maybe turn it over to staff first to see if they have any additional comments.
Sure. Through the chair, my name is Victor Panak. I'm a planner with the Division of Planning and Regulatory Services. So this is an application for definitive site plan review and for an inclusionary zoning special permit to modify parking requirements The applicant is proposing an 18-unit high-rise multifamily dwelling with 16 parking spaces. 3 units are proposed to be affordable, with one of those units affordable to households earning less than 60% AMI, and the project therefore qualifies as an eligible development under the IZ section of the ordinance. The applicant seeks relief through that special permit from minimum drive aisle requirements, parking space dimensional requirements, parking landscape buffering requirements, requirements related to parking in the front yard, maximum impervious surface in the front yard, and loading space requirements. They also seek to reduce the minimum parking required for this property by 5 spaces. In June, the ZBA also granted zoning relief for this project related to lot area requirements, frontage requirements, rear yard setback requirements, and minimum off-street parking requirements. Staff recommends conditions of approval aimed at making as much space as possible on the site available for additional landscaping, as well as some other fairly minor site planning adjustments.
Okay, thank you. Does the applicant maybe want to address some of those?
Certainly. So generally, we appreciate staff's comments, and we're certainly going to endeavor to address the general comment, which is to provide additional green space to the extent possible. It's a tight site with pretty significant topographic issues, but where we can provide that green space, we certainly will try. So just going down the line here, condition 1, which it's my understanding is acceptable to staff. We're going to modify condition 1 in the special permit section to provide that the applicant shall install 2 EV operational spaces. The applicant wanted the flexibility to do a dual head or a single chargers. So there'll be the 2 operational spaces regardless. With respect to condition 1A in the definitive site plan approval decision, we would just ask that additional language be added at the end of that sentence to read that to reflect the location of EV charger pads and/or EV charger equipment. The applicant believes that they might be able to provide the EV chargers in such a way that they're affixed to the wall as opposed to being on a pad. So we're just looking for that flexibility. 1C, staff is requesting that we move the retaining wall along the eastern lot line. We just add at the end of that condition, if necessary. Again, the applicant thinks that they might be able to install the EV charger adjacent to the wall. With respect to condition 1G, we would just recommend some additional language such that it reads, shift proposed retaining walls to the perimeter of the property to the maximum extent possible without requiring zoning relief for setbacks to improve usable exterior space. Just to emphasize that we're not going to be required to apply for zoning relief. I think that's the intent, but just to clarify. There are 2 conditions, 1H and 1I, which have been flagged by the civil engineer as problematic with respect to the infrastructure in the area. So I'll let Ron from Graves Engineering kind of speak to those conditions and why those aren't feasible.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I guess in this case we were contemplating during design placing more trees, but we think that it might be problematic or challenging because over by the ADA parking space, we already have 1 tree. If we place another tree, we do have underground piping that comes from the easterly side of the building and it goes towards the underground infiltration system. So the tree would sort of be somewhat conflicting with the piping. And it would also kind of be at the base of the retaining wall, which I guess is not, good practice in a sense. So I guess placing the tree anywhere within that fringe between the building and the retaining wall is kind of productive. If we placed a tree at the other end, we do have a level spreader that we're proposing to address roof runoff. The tree, I guess, would be in the way. We have a couple trees that we try to accommodate, but again, placing another tree within the level spreader area wouldn't allow the level spreader to work for the stormwater purposes, as well as the proposed utility pole that we have in the upper right corner of the plan and the transformer. So I guess it's kind of things like this that unfortunately I think don't allow us to propose additional trees. I understand the idea, but I think it's just one of those items where it would be best to leave it as shown.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more conditions you'd like to
Yes.
review?
Very briefly, I just would note, with respect to 1E, we don't have any modifications to that condition, but we would just note that the fixture will change to provide the level of lighting needed for the parking lot, but not to be at the height requested by staff. With respect to 1J, we would ask that condition be satisfied before a building permit is issued, as opposed to before a decision is issued. The applicant would be working with their general contractor or subcontractor, rather, to design those walls. So that information may not be available. That wouldn't be designed by Graves. Separately, 1N, reflect location of temporary sediment basin and plans for dewatering. We'd ask for that before a building permit is issued. And with respect to P, we don't have any requested changes to the condition, but we would just note that we appreciate the comment from DTM and staff. What is being proposed is to decrease the length of the compact spaces. They're currently, is it 8 by 18, right?
Currently 8 by 18.
8 by 18. We're going to reduce those to 8 by 16, which is still compliant with our compact space requirements, but it will provide that extra 2 feet, which would allow for a K-turn there. So that would allow vehicles to safely maneuver and turn around to the extent that they drive in to the parking lot, specifically those parallel parking spaces. So that was something that was flagged by DTM, and that was recommended by the traffic engineer in concert with Graves Engineering. So just note that for the board, and that is all of our requested changes.
Okay, thank you. Does staff want to comment on any of those, or did you catch all of them?
He's got them.
Through the chair, yes, we did catch all the proposed changes, and we are comfortable with all the requested adjustments to the conditions.
Okay. With that, if the applicant doesn't have any further comment, I would open it up to public comment on item number 4, 10 Diamond Street. Anyone in the audience have any comments? Seeing no one, do we have anyone online? And it's, what, *9 to raise your hand? Okay, not seeing anyone online. We will move to board discussion. Mr. Delera, any comments from you?
None at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. King?
Definitely a great use of the space. Happy to support it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toomey, I will note that this is a public hearing for a special permit, so Mr. Toomey will be voting on that piece of this one.
This may be more of a generic question than a specific question. What if you don't have a handicapped person that has an electric vehicle, but you have does that electric vehicle just not get used? And what if you don't have 3 tenants with compact vehicles? What happens on parking in that situation?
Certainly. So given that we don't have 1 space per unit already, there's going to have to be a lot of thought around how parking is going to be marketed to tenants. I think in the conditions of approval, the spaces will be bundled with the affordable units. There are 3 affordable units, so those will be bundled. But when the units are marketed, they'll be marketed based on what the parking supply is in the parking lot. So oftentimes, if there's no parking available on site, folks might look for units elsewhere. But certainly, the accessible space will have to remain an accessible space in accordance with applicable law. If they don't have an EV charger, they can still park in that particular parking space.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For myself, overall, I think this is obviously a big improvement to this site. So happy to see this kind of infill development happening in this location of the city. I don't have an issue with any of the special permit requests for relief that they're seeking, and otherwise happy to support it. So with that, I would look for a motion that incorporates the amendments to the recommended conditions of approval that were previously discussed. And someone to close the public hearing, sorry.
Yes. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
And we have a second. On the public hearing, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Delera,
Yes.
and Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
Myself, yes, the public hearing is closed. I have a motion on, I think we're going to do these separately, the special permit.
I move to approve the special permit with associated amended conditions.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded on the special permit. Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Delera,
Yes.
and Mr. Toomey,
Yes.
and myself, a yes. The special permit has been approved. Do we have a motion on the definitive site plan?
I move to approve the definitive site plan for 10 Diamond Street.
I second.
And does that motion include the
Yes,
changes?
including the amended conditions.
Okay, thank you.
I second that.
All right, and we have a second. On the motion, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Delera,
Yes.
and myself is a yes.
Thank you.
Site plan has been approved. Thank you and good luck. All right. Moving on to item number 5, 1 Frederick Street, a public meeting for a definitive site plan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Donald O'Neill. I'm a lawyer here in Worcester. Here this evening on behalf of Tiffany Nguyen in connection with this property at 1 Frederick Street. What we're proposing at this location is a 8-unit multifamily dwelling with 10 parking spaces. It's actually a combination of a couple of, I think, 3 lots, historically speaking, so that it straddles the entire block. And we have the parking coming in from Henchman Street with the parking in the area in front, and then the building itself is pushed back closer to Frederick Street. I have reviewed staff's memo. There are 11 conditions which we're agreeable with. And there also are 2 waivers that are listed on page 3. Would request those waivers, and also, as I indicated, no objection to the conditions. I do have Joseph Graham, who's done the engineering on this, and Robert O'Neill, who's done the survey work, are both, I believe, available online if needed, if there are any questions. This is a situation, basically, it's considered a 4-story because there are 2 units in the basement, but it's actually 3 above ground with the use of the basement for apartment use, which qualifies it as a 4-family. It is in the RG5 zone, and high-rise is allowed in the RG5 zone. So it is compliant with zoning in that respect, and we did get relief from the zoning board in terms of the parking that's provided, but we have 1 for each unit with 2 left over. So any questions that you may have for me, I'd be happy to answer, and also if they're of an engineering nature, then we can defer to the engineer.
Okay, thank you. I will turn it over to staff for any comments they might have.
Through the chair, my name is Victor Panak. I'm a planner with the Division of Planning and Regulatory Services. So this is an application for site plan review at 1 Frederick Street. The applicant is proposing to construct an 8-unit multifamily building with 10 parking spaces and associated site improvements. Currently at the site is the foundation for a 3-unit dwelling, and the applicant is proposing a larger building on the same footprint. The project received zoning relief from the ZBA on June 2nd for relief from frontage and parking requirements, as well as parking and landscaping dimensional requirements. Staff recommends standard board conditions of approval in addition to conditions related to limiting light trespass at property lines and requiring that the project reflect compliance with the ZBA conditions of approval.
Okay, thank you. And do we have anyone, any DPW comments? And sorry, I think I skipped you on the last item.
Yes, no problem. So for this, we noticed that the applicant did the modification that we provide before. The only thing that has to be do is like in the details 1 and 2 of the page 11 of 25 for the drawings. It has to be changed to reflect the Worcester standard. I will tell the applicant to please check the standard construction specification and details. He can find that online and look for page 2-6 and 4-41 to make the changes to the detail 1 and 2 of his drawing.
Okay,
That would be all.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, is that comment reflected in the DPW?
No, that comment is not reflected in the comment that we provided before. So once again, is page 11 of 25 from your drawings, the detail 1 and 2. Those details are not accurate. For example, the utility have to be 36-inch deep. So refers to the standard construction and specification, and the pages are 2-6 and 4-41, 51, sorry. That's where you can find the details that you are missing.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll just want to make sure the applicant understands the...
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the engineer was listening, if they might care to comment on that. The applicant's engineer, I think, should
Okay.
be available online.
Okay.
And reminder, it's star 9 to raise your hand and star 6 to unmute.
Apologies, it took me a second to get off mute. Yes, yeah, I appreciate actually helping me out and doing the legwork on the page numbers. But yes, there should be no issue with updating the details for those.
Okay, thank you. And just through staff, maybe in the room, does that sound like something we should add as a condition of approval?
Through the chair, I believe 1H captures the patch detail, and then the trench detail, I think, can be added into that condition. So provide permanent, can edit that condition to read, provide temporary and permanent patch details and trench details that meet city standards, not Mass DOT.
Okay, if the applicant's okay with that. Okay.
Sure.
Leslie, can you confirm that would satisfy your
Yes,
comment?
it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Unless there's any more comments from the applicant, I would maybe open this up for public comment. Anyone in the room looking to comment on 1 Frederick Street? Seeing no one in the room, anyone online, star 9 to raise your hand. Seeing no one online, we'll move to board discussion. Mr. King, any comment from you?
Just overall good use of the lot as a whole, and happy to support it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Delara?
Thank you. I agree. No other comments to add.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toomey?
No comments, thank you.
All right. For myself, yeah, happy to support this. Looks like a pretty straightforward site plan and a good infill project, so happy to support it. And with that, I would take a motion.
I move to approve 1 Frederick Street with associated conditions.
As modified?
As modified.
Second?
All right, with a motion that has been seconded, Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. That has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you and good luck. Skipping item 6, moving to item number 7, C Street, a public hearing for definitive subdivision plan for 12 New Bond Street, 0 Ararat Street, 0 and 14 Indian Hill Road.
Good evening. My name is Julie Holstrom. I work for the Worcester Business Development Corporation. I'm here this evening to have our team present to you the definitive site plan approval for C Street, which is a portion of the former St. Gobain abrasives complex over in the Greendale section of Worcester. We, as you may recall, we received our preliminary site plan approval from you in June and are now very happy to come back to you for the definitive this evening. We have engineers, our engineering team from Chappelle Engineering and Bowler Engineering here tonight to discuss the details of the plan and respond to some of the specifics. I'm also happy to say that since the preliminary subdivision approval and since we've filed these definitive plans, we have been working to address some of the items that had previously been brought up at the preliminary subdivision hearing from St. Gobain Abrasives, and we feel as if we have addressed those comments. We have also started outreach with some of the other abutting property owners, and having recently met with Abby Kelly Foster School to review the plans and are making sure that they are fully up to speed with how things are progressing over there. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our engineering team.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Patrick Bradley with Chapel Engineering, for the record. So we were here, as previously mentioned, for the preliminary subdivision. We received some comments, so we have made some overall changes to the C Street layout and some of the intersections with Ararat Street and New Bond Street. So displayed right now are an overview of some of those changes that were made. So firstly, we did perform a traffic signal warrant analysis at the intersection with Ararat Street. We originally had it shown as a signalized intersection. That was the intent, that we would lay down conduit in anticipation that a signal might be warranted in the future. We performed the analysis, and as it currently stands with some proposed uses that we have on site, it is not warranted. So the overall intersection has changed in terms of striping and some of the layout features there. Like I mentioned, updated pavement markings. We had added an additional crossing across Ararat Street for St. Gobain employees, as was brought up in the previous hearing. We also are fitting those crosswalks with rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RFBs, to enhance safety for pedestrians crossing, as well as the curb radii has been slightly modified. It is slightly reduced from the previous iteration, as that was also one of the comments we had received from DTM, but it's still large enough to accommodate WB 67 traffic, as well as Department of Fire Safety, their trucks as well. Along C Street, we modified the vertical alignment, so as we were not reaching the waiver for that, so that has been changed. We updated tree plantings as well. We added several more trees along the western side, as well as tree box filters to help with some green drainage along there as well. And then another comment that we received from St. Gobain was that they, along the rumble strip along their property, that we include a fence there. So that has now been depicted in the plans. And then down at the New Bond intersection, we also added another crosswalk across C Street for more connectivity between the two sides. So if we can go to the next one. So this is just an overview of the entire site. So there are 4 parcels in question that we are dealing with here. And if we can go to the next slide as well. The intent here is to combine all of those lots together into one larger developable parcel. In the July, I believe it was July 9th meeting, the roadway, the Stores Road that was between 2 of the parcels, as well as 2 stub roads for New Bond Street, as well as Indian Hill Road, were discontinued and removed from the city map. So that allowed us to kind of combine all these lots together into one larger developable parcel. So if you can go to the next one as well. So this is a mock-up of the Ararat Street intersection as we have now designed. As I mentioned previously, we added a crossing along the eastern leg of Ararat Street, as well as retrofitting both of those crosswalks with the RFB systems to increase that safety. The pavement markings have changed. The eastbound lane markings are the same as they previously were, with the dedicated left and right turn lanes in the through lane. The C Street pavement markings have been modified. Originally, there were two left turn lanes, or there's a dedicated left turn lane and a multi-use turn lane for the right lane, but now that right lane is a through right instead of having an additional left turn in there, just to reflect that the C Street will operate under a stop condition as a part of the initial build condition, since there would not be a signal warranted at this time. You can also see along the sidewalk there are additional tree plantings, and it's hard to make out on the plan as well, but there are some tree box filters that are called out among some of the trees. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is just a reoriented view, basically the same area. So north to south is left to right. So as stated, there are more tree plantings along the roadway there. Most are separated by about 30 feet. There are some larger spacings in there, as it's anticipated that there will be some driveways in the future for the parcels as they get developed. As well as the cross section just in general, we're looking at like 11-foot lanes with 2-foot shoulders. We have the shared use path there. It's a 10-foot multi-use path that would accommodate both pedestrian and bicycle traffic, as well as a 5-foot landscape buffer between the roadway and that shared use path, and then another 4-foot landscape buffer on the back half of the shared use path there. Also called out in there is the fence that would run along the rumble strip for the St. Cobain property. And then additionally, sidewalk would connect toward the St. Cobain property from that crossing on Ararat Street to allow for employees to easily make their way to that property, as it is an active site. We move to the next one as well. So more of the same here. It's not changed much from the previous iteration. Same crossings. We have the bus shelter also proposed there as well. And we can go to the next slide. And then here as well, we have added in the crossing along at the intersection of New Bond Street, just to give that extra connectivity. So that's basically an overview of the changes that we've had since the previous iteration. We did receive staff recommendations coming into the meeting. We do have some notes on those. I can cover them now, or we can kind of let staff talk first, and then we can go over that if it pleases.
Sure.
Go over them now. Okay. So, Note L was for providing tree plantings with no more than 50 feet separation along the sidewalk on the eastern side in coordination with and with the consent of the abutting property owner, where it does not conflict with existing utilities, infrastructure, or circulation. We will make an effort to work with those abutters to get some extra tree plantings there if possible, but in good faith we did add, like I had said before, additional tree plantings along the western side just to provide additional coverage if that is not possible. Note N is to provide the total area of wetland/floodplain areas within the subdivision and reflect the extent of the regulatory floodplain established by FEMA according to the effective FIS. So a new floodplain map was recently approved by FEMA and is currently in a 90-day public appeal period, which would end during the beginning of December, around that time. That map will show that our property is no longer within any sort of FEMA floodplain barrier. So that'll just be an update coming later in the process. The DPW comment X, verify that the proposed 24-inch drain will not impact the existing 12-inch sewer in the New Bond Street. We appreciate the comment. We would just like the wording changed slightly that the applicant shall work with the city staff regarding sewer and drainage tie-ins at New Bond Street. Then we have comment number 2, provide evidence of anticipated water demands for domestic and fire service, including a hydraulic analysis to demonstrate the appropriateness of the proposed water main size for the intended use of the satisfaction of the public of public works and parks. Currently at this time, the project is centered around a roadway project, so we do not have any proposed uses for the site itself. So we were hoping that would become a condition of the site plan approval for those individual lots, as we're not able to currently determine what their use might be, depending on what use ends up going into those lots. Comment 13 was for prior to starting the construction of the lots, all public safety features, guardrails, rumble strips, fencing, signage, etc., shall be installed to the satisfaction of the Commissioner of Inspectional Services or the Department of Public Works and the Department of Transportation and Mobility. Subject to requisite approvals, the applicant shall make good faith efforts as reasonably demonstrated to the Department of Public Works and Parks to install and to make operational streetlights. We would just like to add language that we would make good faith efforts in order to provide additional safety measures to allow for construction on the proposed lots during construction of the roadway, should the roadway not be completed by the time any lots are divided and being built upon. Note 15 is for dust and air quality control. To mitigate dust on the work site, the contractor shall have on-site water trucks, misters, chemical treatment such as calcium chloride during the earth-moving activities. In addition to these measures, excavated soil shall be directly transferred to covered trucks and not stockpiled as to contribute with dust from the work site. We would like that last sentence to be amended, the language changed that the excavated materials will be used for backfill and grading to the greatest extent possible, and that any remaining material would be properly stored on site. Number 17, asbestos survey report. All existing structures that are being demolished must be tested for asbestos containing building materials by a licensed Massachusetts asbestos inspector prior to demolition. If existing building materials contain asbestos, the asbestos must be removed by a licensed Massachusetts asbestos abatement contractor prior to demolition. As it stands now, the site is pretty much demolished. So if this is for a condition during construction, everything would already be demolished at that point, so there should be no need for such a report. And I believe that is all our comments there, and then there's a list of waivers as well, but we have no further comments on those, as they all seem to be approving of those waivers. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there's any other comments from the applicant, I will turn it over to planning staff.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. So I hope I got all those notes. They'll have to correct me if I miss anything, but this is Michelle Smith in the city's planning division. In front of you this evening is a definitive subdivision. You recently saw a preliminary subdivision for the same and approved that earlier this summer. At the same time, you'd heard a petition to remove from the official map a series of relic ways that were established and predated the construction of 190, which sort of fragmented those off. So the applicant's taken the steps to record those plans and then consolidate and amalgamate their land into one property, basically, through an 81X plan. So that's, as was referenced previously. So you're now looking at a single lot subdivision with the construction of an approximately 2,500-foot road. So you can see the orientation again of the site. Try not to be repetitive, but give you my own rendition of the same. So what you're reviewing again this evening is just the layout of the lots and the road through this process and the construction of the road itself. All of the future development on the lots would still require site plan approval, but we don't know what that use necessarily is or will be in the future, or how a building will lay out. In terms of the existing configuration, historically, there has been something known as C Street, but it's not legally a road from a zoning and regulatory perspective. It's not on the city's official map, so sort of not recognized as a real street, if you will. So that is what's shown here to the north, slightly in a different alignment today, if you will. The applicant is looking to construct a new street in roughly the same location as the old street, bring that up to city standards and commit that as a public street upon completion. In this current configuration, if you've attempted to navigate through the site at any point, intentionally or by accident, you may have encountered a series of gates. Historically, the site has operated in many ways as a secure facility for the manufacturing components that were around in the St. Gobain campus. So at Ararat Street and on New Bond Street, the road has historically been gated and sort of cordoned off from the kind of public circulation and access. So you'll notice what we have some comments on that, which I can mention further, but just to make note of that as a somewhat unique attribute to a site than you're used to seeing for a typical subdivision, which is often undeveloped land and a new road in the middle. This is off to the periphery of the applicant's property. So the blue area that you see kind of planned south, which is directionally west, is at the west side of the subdivision. Their land basically is right to the edge of where the right-of-way is proposed to be laid out, so they don't actually own on both sides of the way. So just want to distinguish that too between what we typically talk about for subdivisions, since it's somewhat unique. In terms of comments, really for any subdivision, the applicant has to comply with the regulations, and the purpose of the review by the board is to ensure that they have all the information on their plans, and if there are any standards they can't meet, that the board evaluates whether it's appropriate to waive those requirements. So they are seeking essentially 10 different waivers. I'll rattle through those quickly. Design speed, so there's a 30-mile-per-hour requirement in our regulations, which hasn't caught up to the change citywide for a 25-mile-an-hour limit. The applicant's actually proposing less than the citywide 25. They're proposing 20. DTM supported this. They said they would prefer 25, but ultimately, I don't think they take issue with it being a slower area. Minimum center line radii, again, that's a requirement of 300 feet. They're proposing less than that at 253. Minimum alignment reverse curve tangent, requirement of 150. That was indicated in terms of DTM's comments as acceptable, as long as the truck path evaluation demonstrated that the fire department vehicles can navigate without crossing the double yellow line. I believe that's the case based on the analysis that was provided, but don't want to make the assumption that I haven't missed something. So I'm going to just make note that that is something that would still need to be addressed through the revision process if what was provided wasn't satisfactory. Minimum centerline grade. We have DPW commenting on this, that basically they're providing 16% of what's typically required by the regulations. Minimum right-of-way width is 60 feet. They're proposing 49.5 feet, while 50 is existing. And that, because it's consistent with the existing layout, no issue has been flagged by the various departments with respect to the width. Minimum pavement width, 34 is our standard, and what they're proposing is 26. There's a 30-foot existing standard, which is consistent with the reduction in the speed limit. Minimum property line radii at intersections, 30-foot requirement. They've got 29.5, pretty close to what's typically required. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the next three altogether. They relate to sidewalks. So we require sidewalks on both sides of the subdivision road. In this case, the applicant is unable, given the configuration of the existing sort of back of house loading for the St. Gobain facility that exists, again, at the perimeter of the property here. So you're kind of having a new road abut an existing manufacturing back of house. So they're working with that site constraint and challenge as they've developed the design of the road. So they have proposed sidewalks on the majority of the way on both sides, with the exception of this kind of section in the middle. where the operations for St. Gobain would otherwise be adversely affected if that were to be accommodated. Have provided some additional facilities for pedestrians to redirect folks across the road and back to a wider mixed-use path that they're proposing on the eastern side of the property, which is along their side of the property. So they're asking for the waiver for that to be on both sides, given there's not continuous extent of sidewalks on both sides. And then they're asking for a reduction in the minimum sidewalk area width. So typically we require essentially what is 5-foot sidewalk and 5-foot grass and curbing. They are proposing instead on the eastern side to have something that is less than that, but something that is greater than that on the western side. So we're getting this wider mixed-use path so that bikes and pedestrians can both share that space, and where there are sidewalks on the eastern side, they're asking to reduce that to 6 feet. Again, given they're proposing to compensate for that on the other side, staff are comfortable with that. Commingled with that is because of the loss of that landscaped strip, the applicant is sort of shifting the trees that would typically be required on the east, given they don't own the land, and we require the trees to be on the lots, to put them on the opposite side, and they're asking, instead of putting them on the lots, to put them in the right-of-way, which we think makes a lot of sense, just a relic of our subdivision regulations, requiring them on the lots. There's a little nuance to that. We do require every 50 feet a tree, and there are a few spaces where the applicants attempted to reserve potential future connections for curb cuts where that wouldn't comply. So we're asking to have those trees just be spaced still at the minimum 50-foot offset. So that would still leave 50 feet for a curb cut, which should be plenty of room to install driveway openings. So they can shift the tree plantings that they have along that or add whatever their preference is to make that comply with that minimum 50-foot standard. And then we are also asking that where it's possible, and you heard the applicant's representative comment on this, where it's possible, because we think that there are a few opportunities in coordination with the abutter and or potentially within the right-of-way to include some trees along the eastern side at the back of sidewalk. We're hoping that they can explore a little bit further and see if there might be a way to get a few of those trees installed, not at any greater frequency than would be required by the ordinance, the regulations, and also clarifying that they have provided a number of those trees that would typically be required on the other side of the road here on the western side. So we're not necessarily losing trees. We are just looking to have those additional trees provide compensation and try to provide the cooling which is intended by the trees. So we are asking them to attempt to evaluate that, and where it doesn't conflict with driveways, utility infrastructure, buildings, where there is a sidewalk, to incorporate a tree every 50 feet if the property owner agrees to that, if they're not able to put it in the right-of-way. And if they can't, then they don't need to install the tree. But we just want to see if there might be a few places that we could get a few trees. So those are the three pieces related to trees. And then, because our subdivision regulations are also old, we don't necessarily recognize certain types of modern, low-impact design and green infrastructure. So tree box filter pits are pretty typical BMP that you see in construction of roads, basically a catch basin that a tree goes into, essentially. And they are looking to install those to help with pretreatment and absorption of stormwater to help manage that. The site historically has been essentially all impervious, so the overall project will end up reducing impervious, but this would be an improvement from a water quality perspective in a different way in getting us a little bit of recharge. So they're asking to deviate from the typical standards to allow what is currently a modern BMP for design, which staff are supportive of. So that's a laundry list of waivers. We will note that there are some changes, I think, that are proposed in the public right-of-way. We just want to note that the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction over those. That has to be coordinated with DPW, DTM, and City Council as necessary. And the applicant, I think, is familiar with that process. In terms of the comments, I do want to note that we actually seem to have, I think, duplicated one of our conditions. So I think H on page 2 under 1, which is prior to endorsement of final subdivision plans. I think that's actually a duplicate. So I think we can strike that. L provides essentially the same language. Given the comments that the applicant had, I think for L, they were looking for us to introduce the language at the very end of the sentence says, to the maximum extent practical. So I think that was one edit that I heard. There was an edit to 1X, which I'll ask DPW to just comment on there. I'll circle back to that, but I just want to make sure that the change that was proposed by the applicant is something that Leslie, Ms. Rodriguez is comfortable with. And then I will note that while we included DTM comments, which are listed starting with BB, we neglected to include condition number 2, which may be fully addressed, but I want to ensure that the comments were revised to their satisfaction, which is just reflecting the stop control rather than the signal at Ararat Street. And again, I just want to make sure they're fully satisfied with that, and I'm not sure if we got confirmation of that. So if we could just include that for a double check there. I believe I heard the applicant request a modification to maybe 2, and I'm not sure I heard that in full detail, so I'll ask to get clarification on that. We are requiring just an updated stormwater report reflecting any changes in the event that anything is adjusted by the Concom, because the applicant has yet to file the notice of intent that will be required at minimum under the local ordinance. There are, again, unique former private ways here, so we have a request for kind of a title opinion to the satisfaction of the law department to ensure that the former relic ways are eligible to be included in the lots and built upon. Talked to that applicant's attorney about this and received confirmation from our law department that that would be necessary earlier today. And then finally, a signage and access plan, again, somewhat unique, but this relates to the fact that the site has historically been gated. So when the street comes online, part of the sort of natural circulation path that one would want to take would end up traversing private property. So we're looking for this to ensure that we maintain access for emergency responders as well as members of the public who are now navigating the site have appropriate direction and signage to make sure that folks can get through the site, both for pedestrians as well as vehicles. I think the only other thing I wanted to mention under prior to commencement of construction, we have a labeling error. It says CC, that should actually read 10, and then what you see as 10 is a duplicate and should be struck. So apologies on the typo there. The construction management and phasing plan is pretty typical, but in this case, given the variety of uses that are located along the street, we're just looking to ensure that they maintain access to their sites during the period of construction. It doesn't affect the operations of school during drop-off pickup, as well as St. Gobain. So some additional comments in there beyond what you're used to seeing. That's all I have for comments, but just 2 other items. So I heard a modification to 15 requested. These are conditions from our colleagues at Inspectional Services. So I can't definitively speak for them, but I would anticipate that that if they opt, that language may be acceptable, but that if materials are going to be left on the site for some extended period of time, that we'd be looking for that material to be stabilized. So my understanding of what the applicant indicated is that they're going to live backfill and then live load anything that's not going to be used as backfill. Is that correct? Or would there be some temporary stockpiling? I think what they're trying to get at with this condition is that there is not dust that can blow around.
Yes, I believe the intent was that any excavation would be used to the extent possible for backfill and slope, but yes, any that would remain would be stored on the site for the time being. So we would make efforts to properly store it to reduce any of that dust, yes.
Okay, so you would be stockpiling the material, stabilizing that in a large stockpile for future reuse by like a site developer when they come in for the site plan?
Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
So, yeah, so I think whatever the net export is, they'll want live loaded, and then whatever that volume is, as soon as you get to a reasonable pile, they're going to want to see it hydroseeded or covered in poly, and you might need to do that anyways based on whatever AUL or our RAM plan requirements you might have. But I think we can adjust the language there to reflect that, understanding that's the case. And then for the asbestos survey, understand that everything's been demolished. I think it would just not apply, but I'd rather leave it in the event that there was something they had that we're just not aware of, but I think it would not be applicable. It's just kind of deferring to the other regulations. These are, I would say, generally more for awareness, I think, than anything else. But I don't think the way that it's worded would be problematic for you all. I don't think I caught the request for the modification on the anticipated water demands. If I may just be amiss in having heard that, but if the applicant could maybe clarify that, Mr. Chair, just so I can understand what the concern was.
Hi, Andrew Steiner with Bowler. Again, just because this is a definitive subdivision without a development associated with it, it's really just a roadway, so there is no anticipated water demand. So I'm hopeful that that language could either be struck in or read that any additional water demands would be provided as part of the development of the future lot development.
Through the chair, I think what DPW is intending to get at is they want to make sure the water main is sized for however the end users are going to need it, understanding that you don't know what those are. You probably still have an estimation of what their potential water demands may be that you could project out to make sure that DPW feels that the line's sized adequately to meet that. That's my understanding of their intent with that language based on what I've seen them do in the past. And if Leslie wants to comment on this, she's welcome to as well. I'm just going off of prior discussions.
This plan was revised for another coworker, but yes, I agree with your interpretation.
Do you still feel that it's necessary to adjust the language?
And I can defer to the applicant, but I think our preference would be to have that part of any site plan development that would come forward that would be connected to the roadway.
I think the problem just is that then you can't upsize then you're asking the developer to upsize the water main. So the idea is to size the water main properly now versus dig up the brand new road later, if that makes sense, because we don't want to accept a brand new public street and then go back in and dig it up because we installed a water line that was too small for the types of uses. So it says anticipated, so all you have to do is anticipate, project out what you think. We're not going to hold you to the exact number, but just based on what you understand, the types of tenants that you'd be looking to or types of owners that you're looking to sell to, we just want to make sure that that line's sized properly.
Understood. That's acceptable.
Okay. And there was one other. So, Ms. Rodriguez, if you could clarify the comment that the applicant provided relative to 1X, which was verify that the proposed 24-inch drain will not impact the existing 12-inch sewer in New Bond Street. They had proposed adjusted language, essentially was a coordinate with DPW related to the installation of drainage, the installation of the drainage connection at New Bond Street. Is that something that you're comfortable with, or would you like to revise the language in a different way?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Sure. So 1X, which says verify that the proposed 24-inch drain will not impact the existing 12-inch sewer in New Bond. The applicant wanted to adjust the language to read to the effect of coordinate with DPW to ensure the drain connection at New Bond Street. I'll let the applicant clarify what language they wanted. I kind of missed that one too.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, again, continue to work with city staff on the sewer and drainage connections within New Bond.
So I would say coordinate the sewer and drain connections with DPW to meet city standards at New Bond Street.
Yes, I agree with your language.
Okay. Were there any other items that I missed?
Through the chair, there were two items that I'd like to just also make sure that we're caught, was item number 13, prior to starting construction on the lots. This is making an assumption that the roadway will be fully constructed once we are able to find an end user for these potential sites. I'd ask that that be removed.
Sure, through the chair. So we've had issues in the past where infrastructure doesn't get installed at appropriate timelines. So this language serves to ensure that If there's something that hasn't been installed that's a public safety measure or in particular lighting, and they're different, slightly different language for each, that it's up to DPW or DTM or ISD, depending on what it is, to ensure that they feel that the improvements are at a point where it's acceptable for them to proceed with construction on the lots. Often this might link to different phases. In this case, while this is envisioned as part of a larger phase project, this is the entirety of the first phase. So there isn't necessarily a subsequent phase to link to, because all you're approving is this particular phase. So absent that and absent additional lots, it's a little hard for us to adjust the language. I do think there's flexibility there, because it says to the satisfaction of Commissioner of Inspectional Services, DPW, et cetera. The latter part specifically says good faith efforts. Was there a specific change that you were looking for?
Through the chair, I mean, my thought is, obviously, this is one large parcel that we are creating right now, recognizing that down the road we will be coming back in to further subdivide as we identify end users. If we were to just have one large end user, technically right now they would have frontage on Ararat Street. So, I mean, my fear is that we have an end user that comes into planning board for approval, and they are not able to get it because C Street hasn't been completed to this level of construction. But technically, they would have the frontage necessary to get other permits. So I'm trying to be mindful of that we're trying to actively develop these sites and don't want to hinder development as we continue the construction of the roadway. All that to say, unfortunately, I don't have specific language that I would offer up to you, but...
Sure, so this is just a standard condition that we have for all of these projects. So, like, most of these conditions are standard language, so just trying to work to adjust and understand the root of the concern. So certainly understand that. It says prior to start of construction, so it wouldn't prevent them from coming in and obtaining any approvals. So just want to clarify that, or even the issuance of the building permit. It would just be prior to actual construction, the way that the language reads. But understand the concern. I think we could clarify to say that when the way is used, that this relates to when the way is used for access to the lots. I
feel more comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ultimately, you can always come back for an amendment if the language becomes problematic for a particular, user in the future. But I think that sort of protects against the things that we've had issues with in the past.
Thank you. And one other item is related to item number 5, the signage and access plan. I do note that this is a condition of endorsement. I would request that condition be prior to commencement of construction. I would like to be able to have the contractor that's going to be building the road be able to participate in putting together that signage and access plan as we commence construction efforts on the road.
Through the chair, I think that's fine. I'll just make note that if there's something that DTM or DPW feels is important to get on the Mylar, then we'll just be asking for that to be included in the final set that's approved by the board. Because this is sort of the permanent. We're not talking about the temporary, we're talking about the permanent. So when it's complete, so it shouldn't, the actual contractor shouldn't matter because the engineer should be specifying it. So I don't think that should influence the outcome. That temporary package we do have as a construction management and phasing requirement, and that's under prior to construction. So I think that aligns, but would defer to the board if you want to move that. If you're okay with that, since it's really about the permanent that we have as 5, then we can leave it there.
Understood. I think I was looking at it from a different perspective, so I understand that.
Okay. So we'll just leave 5 where it is then. But the items you're concerned about are in the prior to construction. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing else, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With that, thank you, staff and the applicant, for working out some of those conditions on the fly. Are there any more comments from DPW?
No other comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you. public comments. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to comment on this item? This is C Street Definitive Subdivision Plan, item number 7. Seeing no one in the room, is there anyone online? Seeing no one online, we'll move to board discussion. Mr. King, any comments from you?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Delara.
Thank you, sir. Obviously, a lot to digest here, but I have no comments. This is impressive work.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toomey?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, for myself, I don't have any particular concerns with the site plan as laid out. I do really appreciate staff and the applicant working hard, both tonight during the meeting and ahead of time, to sort this out. This is a big project, and I know the applicant has been down a long road of permitting to get here, and there's still more to go. I have no concerns with the requested waivers. I'm happy to support it. I do hope that you can change the name of C Street to something more interesting. I don't know who does that, but otherwise happy to support it, and we'll take a motion that includes the various changes to conditions that were discussed previously.
I move to approve
And
C.
just a motion to close the public hearing first.
I move to close public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
Myself, yes, the public hearing is closed.
I move to approve C Street with amended conditions as described by staff and agreed to by the applicant.
And through the chair, that includes the waivers as well, correct?
And the waivers.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? It's been seconded. On the motion, Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
And myself, a yes. Motion has been approved. Thank you. You guys are all set. Good luck. Moving on to item number 8, definitive site plan, public meeting for a definitive site plan for 85 and 87 Boston Avenue.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Donald O'Neill. I'm a lawyer here in Worcester here this evening on behalf of Cole DiRoberto in connection with this property at 85 and 87 Boston Ave. And what we're here this evening for, also with me, is Kevin Quinn from Quinn Engineering, and I believe Mr. DiRoberto is available remotely. This is a request for site plan approval for a 3-unit addition to an existing 2-family dwelling. Also shown on the plan before you is an additional single-family semi-detached building, which is on the right-hand side of the property. That's at 87 Boston Ave. And that was previously developed by someone other than Mr. DiRoberto, and then he purchased it back. He had actually owned it at one point, sold it. That building was built by another party, and going forward with this project, the intent was to use the existing driveway to the property 85 Boston Ave to access the parking to be created at the rear of the lot. And that driveway was basically ran right along the property line. And one of the conditions of approval that was involved in the ZBA approval was to widen the driveway to 16 feet, which required an easement over the adjacent property. So it's in the this application for that reason, but basically the new work that we're proposing, other than the driveway widening and a relocation of a retaining wall along the side of the property, it's all basically focused on 85 Boston Ave. We're proposing 3 additional units with 9 parking spaces. and a stormwater infiltration design to the rear of the parking lot. We have initially started at the zoning board with a 4-unit addition. The lot has sufficient area and frontage from a zoning compliance standpoint to allow for that, but there was a lot of back and forth with the board and also some of the neighbors, and we did ultimately agree to reduce the size of this building to 3 additional units, and that's what's before you this evening. I have looked at the recommended conditions of approval. There are 12 of them. The only one that I would like to discuss with the board is 1C, which requests a photometric plan to be submitted in connection with the pedestrian circulation and the parking area. As part of the ZBA process, there was some discussion with some of the neighbors about concerns that they had about the lighting of the parking area, because as you can see, there are neighbors on either side of the property. We were asked by the zoning board what the plan was for that, and my client has no plan basically to light the parking area. And that was represented to the board, and it's not a condition of approval, but that was a concern that was expressed by neighbors, and part of it is you know, this is a residential neighborhood. We're talking about basically 5 units here. It's not that, didn't occur to us that it was a type of parking lot where you would need to have lighting on entirely through the night for parking of this size with this type of use. We were proposing just to have standard lighting on the building entrances. So our plan was, and we haven't proposed any parking, there is a request here specifically for that. And so that's not our intention. And if the board feels that this is absolutely necessary, it would not be, you know, it's a condition that you could impose, but it's not something that we're requesting or would like to see happen, because we just don't think, for the reasons I explained, that it's appropriate in this location. I do have Kevin, as I said, is here to answer any engineering questions that you might have regarding this project, but the conditions of approval other than 1C, you know, are acceptable to the applicant. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to planning staff for any comments.
Through the chair, my name is Victor Panak. I'm a planner with the Division of Planning and Regulatory Services. So this is an application for site plan review at 85 and 87 Boston Avenue. The applicant's proposing to construct a 3-unit addition to an existing 2-family dwelling at 85 Boston Avenue and construct a parking area with 9 spaces at the rear of the site. Access to the parking area would be provided via a 16-foot wide driveway that straddles the property line between 85 Boston Avenue and 87 Boston Avenue. At 87 Boston Avenue is 1 unit of a semi-detached single-family dwelling building, aka a duplex. The project received zoning relief from the ZBA on June 23rd for the use, for relief from minimum parking requirements, and for relief for parking dimensional requirements. Staff recommends standard conditions of approval along with conditions related to plan revisions. Staff are looking for clarity on the location of EV spaces, tree protection details, lighting information, and erosion controls and regrading information. Staff would also like to see the applicant make space for a small outdoor amenity area. And then finally, staff are hopeful that the proposed infiltration basin at the back of the site can be substituted for a subsurface infiltration system under the parking area so that additional usable open space can be created on the site. we're hoping that the applicant can comment on that possibility. To address the applicant's request regarding condition 1C about the photometric plan, a photometric plan is a required submission element of a site plan review application, but moreover, staff has had concerns and continue to have concerns about the conflict between pedestrians trying to exit the site and vehicles driving along the driveway. The driveway is 16 feet wide, and it's really the only access for pedestrians to access Boston Avenue. There are no pedestrian walkways that connect from the building to the sidewalk or to the street. So there are certainly areas on the site where pedestrians could conflict with vehicular traffic, and also the same goes for the parking area in the rear. The walkways on the site lead directly into the parking area. So I think we would certainly like to see what kind of lighting the applicant is proposing to make sure those areas are safe for pedestrians and vehicles. And that's compounded by the concern from abutters of lighting trespass onto their properties. So I think that's a delicate situation, and the applicant should provide details on light fixtures that show that they're shielded to prevent glare onto abutting properties, but still provide the requisite foot candles for safe circulation for pedestrians and vehicles.
We did have a condition of approval in the ZBA approval that did provide for dark sky compliant lighting and to ensure that, that there was no over glare from the lights onto adjacent abutting property. We feel that, that is sufficient. But ultimately, it's up for the board to decide whether you agree with that or not. With respect to the stormwater management system that's proposed, I can let Mr. Quinn speak to that, but it's my understanding basically that that's not what we're proposing, and we did take a look at it to see if it was feasible. And normally that type of system is generally, I think, installed when there's no other alternative present in terms of an underground system. In this situation, if you were to put it under the parking lot to the extent that there's any maintenance that's needed, or if it gets clogged up and needs to be cleaned out, you could have a situation where you have to tear up the parking area, which would inconvenience certainly the tenants while you were doing that, and it would be just another added expense for the owner of the property in terms of maintaining it. The maintenance with the basin that's shown is a surface situation. It's very easy to maintain. And the other, so it has that going for it. It's what's proposed. It was what was designed by the engineer, what was reviewed by DPW with no comments of any kind adverse to that. Also, this type of proposal could easily add $50,000 to $60,000 to the site development cost. We've already reduced this proposed development by 1 unit to 3 units, and basically we don't feel that it's appropriate in this location. I don't know if Mr. Quinn wants to further elaborate on that. That might be helpful.
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Quinn with Quinn Engineering. I think Don covered that subject pretty thoroughly. I did want to say that whenever we have a site that we have room to work with, we like to have an exterior basin as an alternative to chambers underground. An open basin like that, it is more economical to install, but it's also much more accessible for maintenance. If a basin collects sediment, a guy can go in there with a shovel and clean it up. Chambers under a paved area, if they get clogged with sediment, you have to dig them up and replace them. So from a practicality standpoint, a basin is a much more serviceable and economical option. It is an expensive option, putting chambers in a paved area. My client, we had a meeting with neighbors some time ago, and the neighbors were very concerned about the number of dwellings my client was talking about. And he has backpedaled to make this a more moderate proposal. But his ability to afford maybe $40,000 to $50,000 for chambers isn't really good. So we would politely suggest that basin is probably a more reasonable stormwater facility for this site.
Yeah, and I would also add just that, I mean, it's going to be a grassed area. Very seldom will it have any water in it of any kind, so it does have a sort of passive open space function just by design as it is. Again, we don't really see a need for it or believe that it would be beneficial in this situation when you do have the option of the easy access and maintenance moving forward.
Okay, understood. Thank you. I don't know if planning staff has any further comment on that, or otherwise the board can pick that up during board discussion.
No, hearing the comments from the applicant, I don't think we have any issues with the infiltration basin.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to public comment. Is anyone in the room? All right, I see a gentleman. Do you want to come on up and give us your name and city or town of residence?
William Belcher, Worcester, Mass. Is it possible to put a photo up here you can actually see visually what you're actually looking at? Because I can't see it. I'm in a butter. This property, unfortunately, started out, if memory serves me correctly, DiLiberto owned the property, wanted to put a big project up in a very inappropriate area. Didn't work out. Abutters came, we said we did what we had to do. It didn't pass. Then the next thing you know, one piece of land was sold supposedly. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Next to 85 Boston Ave, which now becomes, I think, 87. They put up a brand new two-decker, two-family house. Blocks the entire view from where our property is at. We have a very nice wooded area. If you own Gleason, the back of our property covers this area. You can't really see it. I don't know how good, if you say going from this light, red light down here in front of City Hall, down to the light over here, this property, very narrow, slopes back and forth. Should never, ever have been approved personally as an individual who just purchased a property, 5 years ago? A nice area where there are birds coming and all types of, different types of birds, trees. However, the maintenance of talking about maintenance, 50,000 more, they haven't spent a dime worth of crap of the butters properties, on our side at least, and nothing's been done. Their trees fall down on people's fences. Their trees are leaning over. They got rotted trees. Haven't done anything except go right in the center of the property, and they cut everything on the left, everything on the right that actually abuts all the people's property on both sides of two different streets. Boston Ave's going this way, Gleason here, and I forget the street over there. We're going down a long path. They don't do anything. So how are we supposed to expect them to go and do some good cleaning now and be worrying about $50,000 might add on to the project from all they've been doing is just making it pathetic for the current homeowners in the single-family duplex type area. They've already put something in between the house. They had 85, now they got 87. Brand spanking new place. Now they want to come over on the other property and build something else. Can't get the understanding of these diagrams don't show the property. I'm curious, have the planning board, zoning board, this board been out to have a site visit to see how these company currently, the owners of the property, take care of the property? My thing is, what would make you think they're going to worry about maintenance if they haven't worried about it in 5 years since we bought our property, October of 2020? We're in 2025. They do nothing. Trees right now, still leaning over. There's a child live right next door to us. Their property abuts it. 3 years old, just reached. Mother had to keep the kid away from the fence area, the backyard fenced in, because of the negligence gross negligence of the DiRoberto and whoever the new owner is of 87 or 85, whichever property still owns that goes down the entire length of maybe 5 houses on the right-hand side, maybe 5 houses on the left-hand side. It's a very large property, but very narrow. Sad to say, as an individual, we purchased a property with a very lovely place, and the only thing we've done since we got there is these individuals want to come over and do something and make more money, but don't want to spend money to fix what they already have. There's also Latin flies. Are they called Latin flies? Anyone know what those are? I bet you they don't even know they exist. I was over in the property 2 days ago. It's beyond the back of my fence. My fence has been damaged 4 times in 5 years. Not once have we had any one of the 2 owners or the property manager, I think it's DiRoberto, no one's is concerned about that property except making more property on it to make money. They have not, at one time, have they come to one, at least not to our door, oh, we got a proposal for X, Y, Z, but every time we find it about it, we have come once. Didn't bother coming again, they couldn't make it. Elderly parent got ill, actually passed away. In the interim, it's pathetic. Sad to say that any and all procedures to this point have been approved. It's pathetic. I don't know if it's wetland issues, storm drain issues, whatever it is. Don't let them have anything without permits for everything prior to any approval. It's sad. I pray that you go out today or tomorrow in the daytime before you make a vote. Look at the property, how they currently take care of it, and I can give you a guarantee for 5 years it's been the way it is now. Well, God bless each and every one of you. I'm sad that this is the case that it is. We keep fighting with the same people about the same property. They're just not going to stop. DiRoberto owns or manages a lot of properties, vacant lots throughout this city. I've looked at them. But they just keep cramming it around since, I guess, the people of color, myself and the other individual next to us, people of color, they got to do something now. Don't know if it's a racial thing or it could be just a money thing. You know, you got to make money. But why is it got to be only where we bought our property? But thank you for your time and your patience, Mr. Chairman. But I would like to say to the Code Department, Zoning Board, the Planning Board, and any other department for the city, the City Council, the City Manager, if anyone has the power to make them go clean now, while wait for your development, get your permits, go clean the property, take care of the trees right now that need to be cut down and pruned. They're leaning. Some child might get hit and hurt, but you think they're concerned about it? Please keep that in mind. God bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to briefly respond to some of those comments, if there are current issues, again, I know this came up earlier, they can, abutters can speak to inspectional services to address any current issues with trees or whatever. Tonight, we are looking at a site plan for a multifamily project for a total of 5 units. 2 of them are already there. This use is allowed in this area. They have received approvals from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So just to kind of frame what the planning board is reviewing tonight, we were just looking at the site plan itself, the layout of what's being proposed to make sure that it meets city requirements. The use itself is allowed. So the parameters of the board's review tonight are somewhat limited, but we do appreciate your comments, and definitely I hope the applicant takes that into consideration as they move forward with this project.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one thing? This board has the power to vote, do they not? And they have a power to vote on a definitive proposal that you have currently. And if that definitive proposal currently doesn't set good for the neighborhood, 1, it's inappropriate, the size, 2, of the areas is right there in its confinement, and 3, the record of how they're doing business currently. That should be looked at, but thank you, I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
And all the issues, I think they had 12 issues, at least 1 from code or planning board. These types of things should be looked at and concerned and dealt with prior to approving something. It doesn't make much sense for a rocket scientist to figure out, but thank you very much. The planning board, the zoning board, this is the purpose for taxpayers and the abutters to come and give their concerns, and they should be listened to, and if they are, and given weight, and that weight should say, gee, many properties throughout this city, whether it's development or economic development, or whether it's for low, poor individuals, middle class, it makes no difference, or mixed use. These boards are here for the purpose of making sure that the abutters in the city and the applicants all come to a head of doing what is legally allowed by law. And if you have a zoning variance, evidently there's something that wasn't allowed by law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if just, I don't intend to respond to those comments. I know from my client's standpoint that he would strongly disagree with that characterization. I've seen this property. It didn't look to me that it was not maintained. It is a sizable lot. It's bigger than anything that's around it. And it is zoned RL7, which does allow for low-rise multifamily use. We had, I believe, 3 times before the zoning board. We made significant changes. We did reduce the size of the project. My client's proposing a significant investment in the property, part of which, as it's first-class situation that's being proposed. All of the engineering that was done, and we think that this is an improvement that is not something which anyone should see as anything other than just the natural development of land in compliance with basically the dimensional controls of the zoning ordinance. But I don't want to get in a tit-for-tat situation.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Anyone else from the public?
Yes. Yes, hi. My name is Bart Lasky. I'm at 84 Boston Avenue. I'm directly across the street, actually. I'll be extremely brief. Believe me, I am far from an expert. My only concern, well, I have a few concerns, but the one that I'd like to bring up to the board is fire control. If there's a fire in the new development, there is no way to get to that building. None. The only way is from the road or the driveway that they're now proposing. That is the only way. You can't come in from the left, you can't come in from the right. There is no access. The only access is the driveway, which we've been discussing as far as, lighting and that type of stuff. But if there's a fire in that building, that whole neighborhood, that whole building is going up. There is no doubt about that. And, I'm not too sure what else there is to say, truthfully. I don't know how the board controls that or how that works, but there is no access to that new development, the new piece of that, unless you go down that driveway. To me, especially living across the street, the last thing I want is to see a fire there and have problems. The other concern is, well, there's 1,000 things. But like I said, I'll make it brief. One thing is, where is the garbage going? Where is the snow removal? Again, you only have that one road leading to the back of the new development or the new construction, however you want to phrase it. I have no idea where the snow is going. I have no idea where the garbage from these things are going, as well as, last but not least, if families actually move into this thing and they have children, where are the children even going to play? Are they all coming out on this driveway that, by the way, there's going to be cars coming in and out of this thing constantly? You're going to have 3, 4, there's 5 apartments, is that correct? So it's the 3 and then the 2 that are currently there. So you have 5 apartments, and each one, the new ones are 3-bedroom, the 2 and then 2 downstairs, correct? So look, let's just do the math, right? If families move in there, there's 3 bedrooms, you're going to have children, there's no place for these kids to go other than walking down the driveway. And this is not a small driveway, right? You're talking at least, I don't really know how long it is, 30 feet at least. I think the whole thing is just really ill-conceived and should not be in the area, truthfully. That's my say, and good luck with your decision, truthfully.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Would
yeah.
the applicant like to?
If I could, number one, the building's going to be sprinkled.
Yep.
Because it's adding 3 additional units, which means the existing 2-family will have sprinklers installed in it, and also the 3 new units. We had no, fire department gets copies of everything that gets filed. There was never any expression from them of any concerns about getting access to the property. And if there were, then we would have heard about it, and we didn't. In terms of if you look at the site plan, it's a pretty good sized lot, and there's a lot of open space to the rear of the building. I suppose the kids could go back there, or they could go in the side yard on the opposite side of the property. Most of the other lots that are in the neighborhood have nowhere near as much room as we have on this parcel, and don't feel that it's, there's ample yard area that will be available for use by the residents.
Thank you. Any more public comments on item 8, 85, 87 Boston Ave? Seeing no one in the room, anyone online?
For folks online who are joined by phone, press star 9 to raise your hand, and then I can allow you to unmute yourself.
Not seeing anyone online. We'll move to board discussion, and I think 2 points that came up during the planning department's comments. One was the infiltration basin, and the other was the photometric plan. So with that in mind, Mr. King, any comments from you?
Sorry, someone has raised their hand now from the public.
Okay, well, hold on that. Whoever's online, the floor is yours.
Raphael, go ahead.
Sorry, it's Rafael Hernandez-Acropolis with the architects. I don't have a comment, just we're available if you have any questions specifically to the building or other than the site. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll jump back to Mr. King. Any comments from you?
Definitely understand the abutters' concerns, but with that, what we have within our purview, I think it's allowed by right. Happy to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Delera.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with that. And through the chair, I would also say to the abutters, if there are existing problems on the site as it is right now, that they should stay vigilant in contacting inspectional services and make sure that they do take a look at it and address any problems that they do see. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Toomey?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you. For myself, yeah, I think Mr. Delera summed it up well. For the abutters who brought up some concerns tonight, certainly work with the city where you can to address them. This is a by right use, and I think that the board's purview in this review tonight is to make sure that it meets to the city standards for site plans, which ultimately it does. So I will be supporting this tonight. It sounds like the applicant and the city are okay with leaving the infiltration basin as is instead of doing a subterranean system, which is fine with me. It does appear that there's quite a bit of green space elsewhere on the site. In terms of the photometric plan, I believe I heard staff say that was a requirement of the site plan to include that, so I would prefer to keep that as a condition. Otherwise, I am happy to support it. Unless there's any more discussion with the board, I would be looking for a motion.
This isn't a public hearing, correct?
Correct. This is not a public hearing.
I move to approve 85 and 87 Boston with associated conditions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion has been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delera?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Motion has been approved. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, number 9, 24 Lakeside Avenue, aka Lakeside Apartments Phase 3, a public meeting for a definitive site plan, public hearing for a special permit for relief from minimum parking, for off-street parking, and/or loading requirements, parking dimensional requirements, and landscaping requirements, and a public hearing for a special permit for relief from maximum lots served by a common driveway.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair. For the record, Mark Bornstein, I'm an attorney at the law firm of Prince LaBelle here in Worcester, representing the applicants, excuse me. Joining me this evening in person, we have Rich Mazzocchi of Tremont Development Partners LLC and Eliza Data of E3 Development LLC, the two co-applicants. We have Matt Ashley of Buller Engineering, the civil engineer for the project. Remotely, we have Cliff Bomer of Davis Square Architects, the architect for the project. And I assume we also have representatives from Worcester Housing Authority joining us remotely. So with that, we're going to have a short video presentation explaining the project, and then we will turn it over to staff comments and the conditions of approval.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Worcester Housing Authority owns and operates the Lakeside Apartments, a public housing community along Lakeside Avenue, Circuit Avenue South, and Lovell Street. Built in 1949, the Lakeside Apartments was Worcester Housing Authority's first public housing project. It includes 202 apartments spread across 34 buildings on nearly 13 acres of land along Coast Pond. The apartment buildings are over 70 years old. The units are small, outdated, and energy inefficient. Accessibility is extremely limited, and the roads, sidewalks, and open spaces no longer meet the needs of the community. That's why Tremont Development Partners LLC and E3 Development LLC have joined with Worcester Housing Authority to launch a master plan to fully redevelop the Lakeside Apartments. Over 4 phases, the existing 202 units will be replaced with approximately 350 modern units. In 2023, the applicants obtained approvals for the first phase of the master plan project, which includes the demolition of 8 existing buildings and the construction of 2 new multifamily high-rise buildings containing 116 units, new walkways, open amenity spaces, and parking areas with approximately 69 parking spaces. In 2024, the applicants obtained approvals for the second phase of the master plan project, which will include the demolition of the existing buildings at 52 and 54 Circuit Avenue South and the construction of new buildings with a total of 10 ownership units, approximately 12 off-street parking spaces, and other related site improvements. Now, the applicants are excited to present the third phase of the master plan project, which will transform the middle section of the property by removing 11 of the existing buildings and replacing them with a brand new 4-story, approximately 117,000 square foot building. The new building will have a total of 104 units, affordable for families earning up to 60% of the area median income. The units will include a strong mix of unit types with 41 one-bedrooms, 38 two-bedrooms, and 25 three-bedrooms. The Phase 3 development area is located exclusively in the RG5 zoning district, and the proposed use is permitted by right at the property. Inside the building, residents will benefit from a range of amenities, including a fitness center, a community and meeting room, laundry facilities, an on-site management office, and indoor bike storage with charging stations for e-bikes. Outside the building, the design will feature landscape courtyards, seating areas, and recreational spaces for families. Walkways will connect residents safely throughout the site and the adjacent Lakeside apartment buildings. Phase 3 will promote the goals of the Green Worcester Plan by being constructed in accordance with the Passive House Energy Standards, one of the most rigorous measures of building efficiency. The Phase 3 building's climate-resilient construction will require significantly less energy through well-insulated, air-sealed building envelopes, rooftop solar, and highly efficient all-electric HVAC systems. As a result, the new units will be more economical for residents, energy efficient, and environmentally friendly. On June 17, 2025, the Worcester City Council discontinued portions of Garland Street and Veterans Ave internal to the Lakeside Apartments site. The Phase 3 project area includes a discontinued portion of Garland Street. The Phase 3 project will result in a reconfiguration of this area to construct a modified driveway and parking areas with a total of 75 parking spaces, including EV and EV-ready spaces. The proposed 104 units would normally require 208 parking spaces. However, the Phase 3 development is entitled to certain off-street parking relief as an eligible development under the inclusionary zoning ordinance. In addition to density bonuses and an entitlement to an off-street parking reduction related to a transportation management plan, the applicants are applying for a special permit to further reduce the off-street parking requirements by 50%. Given that the applicants received a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals on August 25th, in the amount of 29 parking spaces. The total requirement is 75 spaces, which is proposed for the project. Despite this relief, the proposed parking spaces will adequately serve the Phase 3 development. According to the Traffic Impact and Access Study for the Master Plan project, ITE standards provide the average peak parking demand for income-restricted affordable housing units located in a dense multi-use urban area is 0.65 spaces per unit. The Phase 3 development proposes a parking supply of 75 spaces for 104 units, which equates to approximately 0.72 spaces per unit. Therefore, the proposed parking areas will exceed the average peak demand for the Phase 3 development. Moreover, the proximity of the Phase 3 development to existing public transit opportunities and a strong network of sidewalks and bicycle accommodations are expected to promote less reliance on vehicles as compared to other residential developments in the city. The Lakeside Apartments is conveniently located near WRTA bus stops along Level Street and Park Avenue. The Phase 3 development includes both exterior covered and interior bicycle storage facilities, which will promote bikeability and provide convenient, secure options for residents who commute or travel by bicycle. To summarize, the Phase 3 development will replace outdated, inaccessible housing with 104 modern, sustainable, affordable units, which will benefit the Worcester community for many years to come.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, you read into the record that we filed applications for a definitive site plan, a special permit for inclusionary zoning incentives, and a special permit for a common driveway. Since the initial filing, it was determined by the Planning Department and Inspectional Services that the common driveway special permit was not required. So we would respectfully request the withdrawal of that special permit application as recommended by staff. Just to briefly summarize, and this is provided in your staff memo, we are seeking a special permit associated with loading requirements, landscaping requirements, and to provide additional relief with respect to the minimum off-street parking requirements. We have some comments with respect to staff's conditions of approval, but we'll let staff speak for if that's acceptable to the chair.
Sounds good. Thank you for the snazzy video, and we'll turn it over to staff for their comments.
Through the chair, my name is Victor Panak. I'm a planner with the Division of Planning and Regulatory Services. So there's an application for a site plan review for an inclusionary zoning special permit and a special permit for common driveways serving 3 or more lots at 24 Lakeside Avenue. This is Phase 3 of the overall redevelopment of the Lakeside Apartments. The overall redevelopment is projected to include 350 units and 243 parking spaces once everything's been completed. As part of this Phase 3 project, the applicant proposes to demolish the existing 11 buildings at the site that currently include 65 units and to construct one large building, a 4-story building with 104 units and 75 parking spaces. The building is proposed to be all affordable and therefore qualifies as an eligible development under the inclusionary zoning ordinance. And because of that, it's entitled to request a special permit from the planning board to get relief from parking dimensional requirements and minimum parking requirements. Under that special permit, the applicant is requesting relief from the required landscape buffers. The parking facilities that are being proposed do not have the required landscape buffer areas along the western, northern, and eastern property lines. The applicant is also seeking relief from loading space requirements. 3 loading spaces are required in association with this building, and the applicant is not proposing any loading spaces. And then finally, the applicant is also requesting a special permit, or requesting relief under this special permit for relief from 29 spaces from the minimum parking requirements. Staff do not have any major concerns with the project as currently designed. We do recommend a few minor conditions of approval related to the site design, specifically bike racks and walkway changes, as well as some additional landscaping. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Before we get into some of the conditions, just want to see if DPW has any comments.
No, we don't have any other comment besides the ones that we already submit in the letter from August 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think the applicant has a couple items I want to address with.
Actually, there's just
conditions.
one, Mr. Chair, if I may. So with respect to 1B, we've conferred with the planning department, and we would just ask to modify that to provide that the condition read, reflect that the walkway along the east side of the building shall be extended to connect with the existing walkway network in the area. So the idea was the proposed walkway kind of ended without any actual connection. So it's a little bit difficult for the applicant in that the adjacent area is part of the proposed Phase 4 development, which hasn't been planned yet. So that will obviously probably be modified as they approach that development. So certainly willing to provide that connection to the existing infrastructure, and that might change as part of the fourth phase.
Planning staff, any concerns with that change?
That's an acceptable change. I think ultimately we want to see the sidewalk in this location connect to the final walkway network that's southeast of that building wing. But if the applicant connects the sidewalk or the walkway to the existing walkway in the area that Phase 4 will ultimately be, at least that connectivity is provided in the meantime, and when Phase 4 comes along, we'll make sure that the connectivity is maintained.
That's exactly my thought, through the chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Unless the applicant has any more comments, I think we'll move to public comment. Anyone from the public looking to speak on item 24 Lakeside Ave? Seeing no one in the room, anyone online? No one, looks like no one's online. So we'll move to board discussion. Mr. King, any thoughts from you?
Just great to see a refresh of the property. Happy to support it.
Okay. Mr. Delara?
Thank you. I agree. No further comments on that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toomey?
No comments, thank you.
All right. For myself, I also have no specific comments on the site plan. It's another good stage in the development of this, redevelopment of this site. I think the board is very happy to support it. Before we move to motions, just want to clarify that Mr. Toomey will be voting on 9B, the public hearing, and I think before we do that, we'll look for a vote for leave to withdraw for 9C, the special permit from the common driveway.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the leave to withdraw for 9C.
Do we need to close the public hearing for that first, or no? Yeah, sure. All right, can we close the public hearing for that before?
I move we'll close the public hearing on 9C.
Second.
All right, it's been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Public hearing has been closed. Do we have a motion to leave to withdraw?
Motion to approve the leave to withdraw on 9C.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
With the motion that's been seconded, Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion has been approved. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing for the inclusionary zoning special permit?
Yes, I make a motion to close the public hearing on 9B.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion that's been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion has been approved. And do we have a motion on the public meeting definitive site plan?
I think we have to vote on 9B still. We just closed the public hearing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
I make a motion to approve 9B with associated conditions.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion that's been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion has been approved. Now we'll move to the definitive site plan.
And I make a motion to approve the definitive site plan for 24 Lakeside Avenue.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, with the motion that's been seconded, Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delera?
Yes.
The conditions with changes, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Conditions and amendments.
For 1B. Motion seconded with the changes. I'll start that over. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delera?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Has
Thank
been
you.
approved. Thank you. Okay, with that, move down to item 11, 31 Harlow Street, a public hearing for a zoning map amendment.
Through the chair, we're not sure that the applicant is actually here. Paul Conger or anyone representing Paul Conger or anyone here as the petitioner for the rezoning at 31 Harlow Street, if you're here remotely, can you use the raise hand feature so that we can identify you? And if you're here joining by phone, make sure to press star 9. That will essentially raise your hand so we can identify you as well.
I was thinking the same thing.
Through the chair, maybe we could try it. I'm happy to start the presentation of staff comments if my colleague wants to progress the slide and maybe try to give the applicant a call. We can see, I'm happy to give the comments, and then I guess I would just recommend that if the board has reservations for some reason, that we continue the item. Typically, we don't like to have public hearings without the applicant present. But for sake of time, I will go ahead and do that if Victor doesn't mind giving him a call to just see if we can get a hold of him. I know we sent an email earlier as a reminder, but so this is a request for zoning map amendment for Harlow Street. This is 31 Harlow Street, so you can see this is pictured on the screen here, but this is basically just south of where the sprinkler factory is on Harlow Street. So if you've gone to the sprinkler factory at some point in your tenure with the city, that is where we're kind of referring to. So Paul is the petitioner. He is the property owner of the location and is looking to rezone the property into the adaptive reuse overlay, as well as achieve a kind of clear up of split zoning. So right now the property is split zoned, as you can see here in the yellow, partially in the RG5 and then partially in the MG2. So it's split zoned, which creates some challenges. Those districts are pretty different in terms of the use compatibility, as well as some of the dimensional requirements, which I'll highlight. But really the board's action in this instance is to make a recommendation to City Council. So you're not the final arbiter here of what happens, but you are making a recommendation to City Council. So to just distill a little bit about the difference between the RG5 and the MG2, the RG5 is our highest density residential district. The MG2 is our sort of most nuisance generating potential district, if you will, in terms of all the different kind of industrial and manufacturing uses it allows by right and by special permit. The main distinguishing feature between the two is that manufacturing zones do not allow residential uses, whereas residential zones tend to not allow those types of manufacturing uses. So very different. Historically on the property, going back some period of time, there's really only been like a kind of contractor shed and yard. We have records that go back to 1910, the different older Sanborn maps and otherwise that indicate it's kind of historically been like a carriage house or other types of uses that were for storing wagons and not residential use per se. We weren't able to locate a residential structure on the property going back in time. So it's got a long history of use as kind of a open lot storage, contractor yard type use, which is what a lot of the older maps indicate the property has been used for. So that's what's there today. So obviously that is not compatible with the current zoning, so it's what we'd consider privilege not conforming in that respect based on the quick analysis that our staff did. So you have that present on the site today. So they're looking to basically just legalize that by moving the zoning district line to align better with the property line in this case. So again, a lot of different differences on uses, many different uses that are, again, allowed by right or by special permit in the manufacturing district that are not allowed. It's everything from food service, motor vehicle service, repair, garage, wholesaling. All of those things are not allowed in the residential district, but would be allowed in the manufacturing zone. I won't belabor all of those, but there's a summary table that we've provided in the memo that highlights those if you're interested. And then generally, the dimensional requirements are much more permissive in the manufacturing district. There's lot area that's required in the residential district. In the manufacturing zone, we use floor area ratio, or sort of lot to building ratio, to regulate density. There's no height limitation in the manufacturing district. In the RG5, it's a height limitation for a high rise of 90 feet. So that it's a pretty permissive, even in the RG5, but the manufacturing district has no limit. But it is restricted by the floor area ratio compared to the RG5, which does not use that to kind of restrict development. Instead, we go by lot area, which is variable depending on the actual use. Front and rear setbacks are similar. Side setback typically would end up being the same because of the proximity to the change in district. We would require still a side setback in the MG zone if it were to be adjusted to follow the property line. But on the other side, where it abuts a manufacturing use, there would not be a side setback. The adaptive reuse overlay that they're looking to pull, so you can see the blue on the right-hand side that's north of the property. That's an adaptive reuse overlay that was established at the property back in 2023 by the applicant. So they own the property across the way and are hoping to be able to kind of have the opportunity to do some more campus-style development, having continuity in zoning across the different properties. So that includes making the adjustments to pull this property into the adaptive reuse overlay, or AROD as we call it, to provide that flexibility. What the AROD does is it provides for, by special permit, residential uses. So were this to be rezoned fully manufacturing, were this to be rezoned to the adaptive reuse overlay, they would need a special permit to allow a residential use. So they wouldn't necessarily lose the opportunity to use it for residential purposes in this tiny little sliver they have, but instead, with special permission, they would expand the opportunity to have a suite of different residential uses on the property. That is a special permit from this board, and then the purpose of that is to kind of encourage reuse of vacant and underutilized buildings and properties, particularly those associated with former kind of manufacturing complexes, of which this is obviously adjacent to, and in kind of that node of zoning that exists today. Really, there are some minimal dimensional elements to that AROD, which is all reliant on a special permit. So the board can grant flexibility with respect to some of the dimensional requirements, including parking to a degree, but it's all regulated through the special permit by the planning board if that is sought to be utilized. Historically, this property has been zoned manufacturing where it is manufacturing on the map. The area that's zoned residential has flip-flopped in residential classification. It was originally RG5 as far back as our maps go, flip-flopped to RL7, and then it's back now to RG5. So it's kind of transitioned over time, but generally been residential. So this property's kind of always had that split zoning characteristic by the nature of the maps. In terms of the uses in this area, again, folks may be familiar, but essentially the manufacturing uses follow the manufacturing zoning district lines, essentially along the highway, because we're right kind of in the 190-290 split, kind of right in that curve or elbow of the 290 section of 290 right there. So we've got these kind of more intensive, potentially nuisance generating uses up against the highway, and then we transition to denser residential neighborhood, and then along Lincoln Street we transition to a more kind of commercial mixed use corridor. So that's just generally the kind of character here. Worcester Now Next, in terms of this area, we do have it pegged as basically far left an area as transformational, meaning that it's got it's underutilized. It has the opportunity to transform from what it is now to something that is more of a mixed-use vision. The land use vision for this area was sort of artisan, so you could think kind of what the sprinkler factory used to be, kind of creators, smaller scale like producers, like you used to find craft tea kombucha and an art gallery, that kind of thing. That's very much in line with kind of the transformational vision for this area. As part of the Now Next plans, we think the adaptive reuse is pretty consistent with the vision for that. I talked a little bit about the historic use, but I'm happy to answer any questions the board members have about the differences between the zoning districts, but really the petitioner, since it seems like they have not joined and we weren't able to get a hold of them, wants to open up opportunities to redevelop the property and limit the challenges that split zoning creates for parcel and how it might shape the future redevelopment of that site. enabling also the potential for residential use, whether that's a core part or an accessory part of what they end up choosing. It provides additional flexibility for redevelopment of the parcel. And that's kind of the vision they have as they've articulated to us. While there's not a specific proposal, because the zone changes about any of the multitude of uses that could go on the site, and that's what the board should consider. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that for a thorough summary. I know it sounds like we don't have the applicant online, but this seems like a pretty straightforward zoning map amendment. So unless anyone on the board, or we'll give a second to anyone in the public has any concerns about this, I think we can maybe move ahead tonight to support the proposed amendment. So with that, anyone in person looking to comment on this item? Not seeing anyone. Anyone online? No one online. Okay, with that, any board discussion? Mr. King?
No comment.
Okay, Mr. Delera?
I'm always pleased to rectify split zoning, so I support this, no comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toomey?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. Myself, also agreeing with Mr. Delera, we like to clean up split zone parcels and support hopefully the ongoing redevelopment of this area. So I'm happy to support it as well. I think with that, we would need to close the public hearing. And is this something that Mr. Toomey would vote on? No, because it's not a special permit. So do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing on 11A.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delera?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion on the zoning map amendment. To remind, this is a recommendation to City Council.
I make a motion to recommend favorably to City Council the approval of the zoning map amendment.
We have a
second.
Motion that's been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delera?
Yes.
Myself, yes. The motion has been approved. Okay, on to other business subdivisions. Whippoorwill subdivision request for a performance agreement secured by a bond.
Through the chair, I apologize because I was updating to give you a suggested motion. If my colleague wants to refresh the screen, hopefully that will pop up. But that's what I get for last minute edits to the slides and the slides not syncing. But the applicant was in front of you relatively recently for change to their subdivision here. So this is for the Maldenwood subdivision, and basically there are a variety of different conditions, and we have a specific condition related to Whippoorwill Drive, which is an existing private street that the applicant is extending and reconstructing the full extent of. And in that process, the board conditioned that there be a separate monetary form to secure this section of the road that's beyond whatever else is required for the rest of the project, to ensure that the developer doesn't walk away and not complete this part, because it's the last phase of the proposal. So they are at the point where they are looking to move forward with installation of footings and the stream crossing, which provides the interconnection between their new subdivision and the existing development. And they are seeking to set the form of surety for Whippoorwill Drive as a performance agreement secured by bond. DPW has made a recommendation on the amount, which you can see here on the screen, which is a total of $311,575, $311,575, and that we are recommending a work completion date just shy of the sunset date of the project on December 1st, 2027, which aligns generally with the completion of that construction season, which is about a 3 or 4 month period between when the construction season would end and when the sunset date would close out for the project. So this should give them the kind of maximum amount of time to complete this, knowing that this is the last phase. That is the DPW's recommendation and our recommendation as to the dates. I don't believe the applicant had any concerns related to the recommendation from DPW, so we would just be looking for the board to set that so that the law department can draft the required agreement. So a suggested motion is on the screen for you if you choose to use it.
Okay, thank you for the summary and suggested motion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to set the form of surety for Whippoorwill Drive as a performance agreement secured by a bond in the amount of $311,575 as recommended by the DPW with a work completion date of December 1st, 2027.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Motion has been seconded. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delara?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion approved. Moving on to A&Rs.
All right, through the chair, here we go. We still have one that's not properly before the board. One day it'll be removed from the agenda, or you'll see it, but that's what's up with Share Trail. Next up, we have Knox Street. Knox Street is, this section anyhow, is an unimproved woods. This is not physically a road, but it is a road on paper, so that's why you're seeing it labeled as a private way. It is technically on the city's official map, but if you go out and see it, it's woods. So it's not physically passable or improved. So the applicant has labeled that all of these proposed lots, of which there are 7, are not buildable. There are 2 lots that exist, one on the northern side and one on the southern side. So they're looking to divide the lot on the northern side, where you see that orange line, to create 2 lots, and then along the southern line to create 5 lots from the 1 lot there, the total of 7 lots here. There's a notation here, again, on each lot indicating they're not buildable. These don't comply with zoning. They don't meet the frontage requirements. They cannot make any improvements to the road without the planning board's authorization, but they insist on proceeding with the A&R. We cannot withhold endorsement. So in this case, just will make note too that there is a specific note here about the requirements for further action by the planning board down at the bottom, in addition to the not a building lot on each of the lots. So we have confirmed with law department that it's eligible for endorsement. And that is just in the RS7 zone, which is a 65-foot frontage requirement, which the lots would have if they actually had meaningful access and a street in front of them, but they don't. More straightforward A&Rs that we have. This is an A&R for Elmer Street. It's looking at an RL7 zoning district. Frontage requirement is 65 feet or 35 for a duplex. In this case, we have a duplex. They're proposing to do a 0 lot line. So you can see the orange line here is where they're proposing to divide that, with each lot remaining with 35 feet on a public street. And then in this case, we have 29 Mountain Street East. You've actually seen A&Rs for this quite frequently of recent. This is a public street. It's split zoned in a business and residential district. The business district has a 40-foot minimum requirement based on a residential use, and the RL7 has a 65-foot requirement for frontage. Based on the configuration, the lots don't provide for any challenges. There's an existing commercial building, and the business district has a minimum 20-foot access requirement, which the lot meets. So there shouldn't be any issues with endorsement on this one. Here we have an A&R for Winter Street and Harding Street. This is an existing former mill building. Essentially what the applicant's looking to do is sort of divide the land along the party wall between essentially buildings. So you can see the orange line between the skinny little neck of the building, which is kind of historically residential condos, and then the larger section of the building, which is more historically manufacturing. They're looking to just provide that separation for the land so that they can work on redevelopment of that. It's in the BG3 and CCOD, of which the frontage requirement is reduced for multifamily use down to 40 feet. Understanding that that's the applicant's intention, both lots would comply with the minimum frontage requirements. Here we have another Sharer Trail. This one is 51 Sharer Trail. It's on the corner of Vermont Ave and Sharer Trail. These are private and public streets. So you've got Sharer Trail, which is on the right. That is a private street. And then here on Vermont Ave that you see, that is public. The frontage for the proposed lots is along Vermont Ave. And this is a 65-foot frontage requirement in the RS7 zone. Both lots exceed that minimum. And we have an A&R for 124 Rodney Street and Breck Street. Rodney Street is public, Breck Street is private. It's also an unimproved wooded condition here. This is an RG5 zoning district. In terms of the frontage requirements for this district, it's 20 per unit for an attached style or townhouse style dwelling that you've got. So you've got 3 proposed units of townhouse style dwelling. So these are the 0 lot lines that you're seeing along the party wall between the different units that are shown in the orange yellow color. So going from 1 lot to 3. And here we have 612 Grove Street, which is a public street, and then you'll see frontage also along Nelson Place, which is kind of the street to the south, and then Holden all the way over to the right. So this is kind of a unique intersection, but the frontage requirement here is 80 feet in an RS10 zoning district, so our most restrictive zoning district. And both lots, as reconfigured, have that minimum 80 feet of frontage. Grove Street provides that frontage for the lot to the north, which I think is Lot 1, and then for the lot to the south, we have 80 feet that's being provided for along Nelson Place here. And again, that orange yellow line is the division, so going from, again, 1 lot to 2. And that is what we have, I believe, for all the A&Rs.
Okay, thank you for the summary on the A&Rs. Is there a motion to endorse?
Motion to endorse.
And that's A&Rs B through G, I believe?
Yep.
All right, so motion to endorse.
A second.
A&Rs B through G.
All right, I heard a motion in a second. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Delera?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion is approved. I don't believe there are any communications or board policies, and the approval of minutes are not ready yet. So, with nothing else on the agenda, I take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the support with the technical difficulties, too.